History claims we were primitive, but the Earth tells a different story. Buried in layers of ancient rock, we find objects that simply shouldn't exist. Precision-cut stone that defies modern lasers, complex gears from an age before engines, and technical anomalies that shatter our timeline. These aren't just relics, they are digital age blueprints found in the hands of the ancients. Was there a high-tech civilization lost to time, or are we looking at the fingerprints of a power not from this world? Today we confront the artifacts that prove everything we know about the past is wrong. Buried in the shadows of a secret chamber beneath the Temple of Hathor lies a carved image that has defied explanation for over 2,000 years. It isn't a god, a pharaoh, or a battle. It's something that looks eerily mechanical. Known today as the Dendera Light, this bizarre relief shows what appears to be a giant light bulb, complete with a filament-like serpent, and a pillar resembling modern electrical components. But this was carved over 2,000 years ago. How can that be? Is it just mythological symbolism? Or could it be a glimpse into a lost technology far ahead of its time? Whatever the truth is, the Dendera Light remains one of ancient Egypt's most electrifying enigmas. What do you think the Dendera Light really is, an ancient symbol, or a lost technology we've yet to understand? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're curious to hear your theory. At the heart of the Dendera mystery lies the carved image itself, an object that looks uncannily like a modern electric light bulb. In the relief, an elongated elliptical or oval-shaped object strikingly similar to a large glass bulb is shown lying horizontally. Inside this bulb is a twisted filament-like form, drawn as a serpent, undulating from one end to the other, very much like the filament in an incandescent light bulb. Where the serpent filament meets the base of the bulb, there appears to be a component resembling an electrical terminal, interpreted by some as a symbol of a power source. Beneath this bulb sits another shape resembling a pillar, identified as a Djed column, an ancient Egyptian symbol of stability associated with the god Osiris. Looking closer, one figure is shown gripping the serpent's tail, appearing to connect or activate the light source. Another figure on the opposite side gestures as if assisting or presenting the device, creating a peculiar scene, a group of individuals interacting with a massive glowing apparatus. What makes this image so unusual is that it lacks the abstract or symbolic nature common to most Egyptian religious art. The proportions are precise, the posture of the figures realistic, and the object itself is geometrically coherent. There are no angelic wings, solar discs, or radiant halos, typical of Egyptian symbolic vocabulary. Instead, the scene feels technical, almost like a mechanical schematic. This level of detail, combined with the object's unmistakably technological shape, has prompted many to ask a provocative question. Is this really just a religious symbol, or evidence of a lost ancient technology? Some ancient technology theorists boldly refer to the Dendera Light as the Egyptian light bulb. According to them, the relief's design bears striking similarities to Crookes tubes or Geissler tubes glass vacuum devices used in high-voltage experiments in the 19th century. They suggest the undulating serpent inside represents an electrical current, the glass bulb is a container for ionized gas, and the Djed pillar beneath functions like a transformer or capacitor. Some even went as far as building working replicas based on the Dendera Light's design. These models, when powered with modern electricity, could emit a faint glow, strengthening the belief that the ancient Egyptians may have possessed a form of illumination technology now lost to history. Supporters of this theory raise a deeper question. If the ancient Egyptians only used torches, why do so many inner corridors of temples and pyramids show no trace of soot? They argue that reflecting sunlight using copper mirrors would not be effective due to low reflection efficiency and rapid light loss after multiple bounces. From this, they propose a bold yet intriguing idea. Perhaps the Egyptians had access to, or even invented a form of lighting, possibly electrical or plasma-based, that has been entirely forgotten by modern civilization. Most mainstream Egyptologists firmly reject the ancient light bulb theory, arguing that it is an overinterpretation promoted by fringe theorists lacking solid foundations in archaeology or linguistic context. From an academic standpoint, the image known as the Dendera Light is in fact a deeply symbolic mythological depiction, not a representation of a technological device. Based on inscriptions accompanying the relief, scholars explain that the serpent inside the bulb represents a divine life force, a symbol of the god Hermonthis, a form of Horus. The serpent emerges from a lotus flower, which symbolizes creation and rebirth in ancient Egyptian cosmology. The Djed pillar beneath stands for stability and eternity, often associated with the god Osiris. The elliptical shape encasing the scene is interpreted as the cosmic womb or a protective sphere of divine energy. Scholars emphasize that projecting modern technological imagery onto ancient art is scientifically unfounded and ignores the vital religious and cultural context of the time. While the image may appear strange through a modern lens, it remains a reflection of a sophisticated spiritual worldview, not a literal mechanical device. Although most mainstream scholars have offered symbolic explanations for the Dendera Light, one fundamental question remains unanswered. Why did the ancient Egyptians choose to depict a religious symbol in a form that so closely resembles a mechanical device? If this image was merely a representation of divinity or creation, why didn't they express it using the traditional artistic style known for its abstract and metaphorical imagery? Instead, the relief employs strict geometric composition and details that resemble a technical blueprint. The precision of proportions, the mechanical design elements, and the way the figures interact with the object all suggest a functional system rather than a purely mythical ritual. This contradiction between the visual style and the attributed meaning keeps the Dendera Light shrouded in mystery. It challenges our modern understanding of art symbolism and the intellectual reach of ancient civilizations. The Dendera Light is not located in a public part of the temple, but in a restricted underground crypt accessible only to high-ranking priests. This further adds to its aura of secrecy and ritual. The Temple of Hathor dates back to the Ptolemaic period, 4th to 1st centuries BCE, a time when Greek influence mixed with traditional Egyptian beliefs. Importantly, no other similar depictions have been found elsewhere in Egypt, suggesting the Dendera Light is a uniquely isolated image. The Dendera Light represents a classic divide between two schools of thought, one that sees it as religious symbolism rooted in ancient cosmology, and another that suspects it could be a remnant of forgotten technology. It raises deeper questions about the knowledge of ancient civilizations, their potential understanding of natural forces, and whether history is as linear and complete as we think. The ultimate question remains: could the ancients have understood things we're only rediscovering today, or is it all just coincidence? And what about you? Do you believe the Dendera Light is just a mythological symbol, or a real ancient light bulb whose meaning has been lost to time? One of the greatest mysteries of ancient Egyptian civilization doesn't lie in its colossal statues or towering pyramids, but rather in the tiny drill marks left on stone blocks. At first glance, they seem unimpressive, but upon closer inspection, these traces reveal an astonishing story, a technological enigma that far surpasses our conventional understanding of what the Egyptians were capable of more than 4,000 years ago. At various archaeological sites, such as Giza Saqqara and Abu Sir, and especially in the quarries near Aswan, where the Egyptians extracted stone for their monumental constructions, researchers have discovered numerous deep and evenly spaced circular drill marks on blocks of red granite, basalt, and diorite. These aren't soft stones that can be easily carved, but are among the hardest materials on Earth, with hardness levels second only to diamond. This fact has ignited a significant controversy among archaeologists and engineers alike. What do you think created these precise drill marks in stones harder than copper tools could ever handle? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Lost technology, advanced engineering, or something even more mysterious? One of the first individuals to question the stoneworking techniques of the ancient Egyptians was Sir William Flinders Petrie, a renowned British archaeologist in the late 19th century. During his survey at Giza, he discovered a cylindrical stone core drilled from a granite block with a spiral groove running uniformly along its entire length. What particularly astonished Petrie was the depth and uniformity of each spiral ridge, which seemed nearly impossible to achieve using only crude copper tools or traditional hand-spun drilling, the very methods most archaeologists believe the Egyptians used at the time. Petrie not only documented his observations in detail, but also took precise measurements of the technical parameters of these grooves. He calculated that to produce such deep and even cuts, the drill must have rotated continuously under consistent pressure and at high speed, comparable to how a modern drill operates with adjustable pressure control. He even exclaimed, "I cannot conceive any method, whether using bare hands, stone, or sand, that could produce such deep cuts with perfect angles on a block of granite." The core issue lies not just in the precise shape of the drill marks, but in the type of material the ancient Egyptians managed to drill through. Stones like red granite basalt, and especially diorite, belong to a group of extremely hard rocks with a hardness rating of 6 to 7 on the Mohs scale. To put it into perspective, these rocks are many times harder than copper, the main metal used by the ancient Egyptians. Even today, shaping or drilling into diorite requires diamond-tipped drills or advanced technologies like ultrasound or lasers. And yet somehow the ancient Egyptians were able to produce perfectly round and deep drill marks in these materials, something that even medieval technology couldn't achieve. The common theory suggests they used copper tools combined with quartz sand, but this still doesn't explain it, because the pressure produced would be insufficient for effective abrasion, and it would be nearly impossible to maintain the smooth, continuous rotation needed to create such flawless drilling patterns. This contradiction has led many modern researchers to ask, did the Egyptians possess some form of technology that was never recorded? Or are we severely underestimating the mechanical skill and creativity of an ancient civilization? Many traditional archaeologists believe that these mysterious drill marks could have been made using a method called abrasive drilling, which involves hand-spun wooden drill shafts combined with quartz sand and water to gradually grind into the stone. According to this theory, with enough patience and precision, the ancient Egyptians could have produced relatively even circular indentations on hard stone surfaces. However, numerous modern experiments have shown that this method is extremely slow and almost incapable of achieving the depth or uniform spiral patterns seen in the actual artifacts. Furthermore, to create such deep spiral grooves in granite or diorite, it would require sustained high pressure over a long period, something very difficult to achieve using bare hands and primitive tools. More importantly, if these were simply marks made by manual drilling, then why do so many of the stone cores show nearly identical spiral spacing, consistent angles, and uniform depths? This strongly suggests the likely presence of a device capable of controlling both pressure and rotational speed, something that would have been virtually impossible with the technology of that era. A bolder theory proposed by many independent researchers and modern engineers is that the ancient Egyptians may have used energy-powered mechanical drilling devices, although the source of that energy remains unknown. Among those who support this idea, Christopher Dunn stands out as a prominent voice. He argues that the markings left on the stone cores are irrefutable physical evidence of a technology far beyond its time, possibly connected to a mechanical or electrical system for which we have no historical record today. Taking this even further, some theories suggest that the massive stone structures and precise drill marks may not have been solely the work of the Egyptians, but rather remnants of a long-lost prehistoric civilization, or even evidence of intervention by extraterrestrial intelligence, an idea commonly explored in ancient astronaut theories. Although there is no absolute proof, this theory continues to draw attention because it raises a profound question. Could there be an entire chapter of human history that has never been recorded? The remaining evidence is still extremely difficult to dismiss. The stone cores preserved at the Petrie Museum clearly display uniform spiral grooves, and to this day, no one has been able to replicate them using primitive tools like those believed to have existed in ancient Egypt. This raises serious questions about the actual methods used in their creation. Additionally, several stone blocks at Saqqara and Giza still bear unfinished cuts, suggesting that a drilling device may have stopped midway, leaving behind incomplete drill marks. This apparent incompletion has unintentionally revealed valuable information about drill angles, applied pressure, and groove depth, all of which far exceed what could be achieved using traditional hand tools. These details, when closely examined further, deepen the suspicion that the ancient Egyptians may have used a form of mechanical technology that we still cannot fully explain today. The story of the ancient precision drills of Egypt continues to challenge both archaeology and modern engineering. If the Egyptians truly drilled into granite using copper tools and sand, why has no one been able to recreate such results today? And if they didn't use such tools, then what kind of technology did they use, and where did it come from? Perhaps we're overlooking an entire chapter of human history, one in which a civilization more advanced than we ever imagined once walked the earth, leaving behind traces not in books, but in the unyielding memory of stone. It began with a rusted lump pulled from the bottom of the Aegean Sea. In 1901, Greek sponge divers stumbled upon the wreckage of an ancient ship near the island of Antikythera. Amidst broken statues and scattered cargo, they recovered what looked like nothing more than a corroded piece of bronze. Forgotten for years, it sat in a museum, until one day someone noticed something impossible: gears. Tiny, intricate gears. That discovery would change everything. What they had found was unlike anything ever seen from the ancient world, a device so advanced, so precise, that it defied belief. A machine built over 2,000 years ago that could track the movements of the sun and moon, predict eclipses, and even calculate the timing of the Olympic Games. We now call it the Antikythera mechanism, and to this day no one fully understands how or why it was made. Its discovery didn't just challenge archaeology, it shattered our assumptions about what ancient civilizations were capable of. Could a civilization over 2,000 years ago really have built something this advanced? Or is there more to the story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your theory. Around the year 100 BCE, when most of the world still relied on rudimentary astronomy and basic agricultural calendars, the ancient Greeks created a mechanical device so sophisticated it surpassed the technological understanding of its time: the Antikythera mechanism. This device contained more than 30 bronze gears, each one hand-cut with extraordinary precision. Some of these gears had irregular tooth counts, a critical detail that allowed the mechanism to simulate the non-uniform motion of celestial bodies, especially the elliptical orbit and variable speed of the moon. It's a level of complexity that humanity would not fully comprehend until thousands of years later with the help of modern mathematical models. The Antikythera mechanism went far beyond simply telling time. It could track long-term astronomical cycles, such as the 19-year Metonic cycle. The Saros cycle used to predict solar and lunar eclipses lasting 18 years and 11 days, as well as the more complex Kallipic and Exeligmos cycles. Its front face displayed the positions of the sun and moon along the zodiac using a rotating hand, while the back featured two concentric dials representing astronomical cycles over time. All of this brilliance was packed into a small wooden box about the size of a modern laptop, a powerful testament to a level of mechanical and astronomical knowledge that still stuns the modern world. One of the most mysterious aspects of the Antikythera mechanism is the fact that it stands completely alone in history. No similar device has ever been discovered from any ancient civilization. There are no blueprints, no prototypes, and no ancient texts describing its operation or construction methods. This total silence from history about such a sophisticated machine has left a massive gap in our understanding. Was this the only one ever built, or is it merely the last surviving piece of a long-lost ancient technological tradition? This question continues to spark intense debate among scholars. If the Greeks at that time were capable of creating such a complex device, why is there no other evidence of similar mechanical technology being applied in other areas of life? Could it be that this knowledge was once more widespread but eventually swept away by historical upheavals, wars, natural disasters, or the collapse of major intellectual centers like the Library of Alexandria? The device's discovery was entirely accidental. It was recovered from the Antikythera shipwreck, likely a commercial vessel transporting goods from Asia Minor to Rome. This led some to believe the mechanism was a precious object created by a master craftsman, possibly intended for the elite class of Roman society. Some researchers have even speculated that it was connected to the legendary mathematician Archimedes, a mechanical genius of the ancient world, though there is no definitive evidence. One of the greatest mysteries surrounding the Antikythera mechanism lies in what makes it so extraordinary to this day. The device has not been fully decoded even though more than a century has passed since its discovery. Most of the original structure has suffered severe damage due to time's seawater and oxidation. Only 82 fragments have been preserved, and researchers have had to rely on advanced imaging technologies such as 3D CT scanning and high-energy X-rays to reconstruct its internal design. However, every reconstruction remains speculative because we do not have a complete original version to compare with. Even the device's original purpose remains hotly debated. Some suggest it was an educational tool used to demonstrate planetary cycles to students. Others believe it served as a ritual calendar for religious ceremonies or a personal instrument for an ancient astronomer. More daring theories propose that the Antikythera mechanism was merely a small part of a much larger astronomical system, a project humanity has never discovered or recorded. The inscriptions found on the fragments believed to be user instructions are also difficult to fully translate due to heavy corrosion. Additionally, the language used is highly technical, and the absence of comparable documents from the same era makes the decoding process incredibly challenging. Many of these inscriptions are buried beneath layers of bronze corrosion or have completely disappeared, potentially taking with them the final clues to the device's true purpose. Perhaps most puzzling of all is that no replicas, no similar devices, and no design schematics have ever been found. There is nothing to verify the accuracy of today's reconstructed models. No one knows for sure whether the device is missing key parts or whether the gear arrangements that we've reimagined actually reflect the original build. And the question that haunts many researchers remains, was the Antikythera mechanism just one small piece of something far greater, a vast system of astronomy or ancient knowledge now completely lost to time. The true origin of the Antikythera mechanism remains a major unanswered question. Based on the style of inscriptions and the refined craftsmanship, many experts believe the device may have been created on the island of Rhodes, a renowned center of astronomy in the ancient Greek world. However, no surviving historical documents mention the creation of such a device there, nor is there any evidence that a workshop capable of building such a complex machine ever existed. What's even more astonishing is this: why did such advanced technology vanish completely from history? After the device was discovered, it took until the 14th century, more than 1,400 years later, for humanity to develop mechanical instruments with comparable complexity, such as the astronomical clocks of medieval Europe. This sudden disappearance created a strange void in the timeline of technological progress, as if an entire body of ancient knowledge had been wiped from humanity's memory. The Antikythera mechanism raises a cascade of unresolved questions that continue to baffle both scientists and historians. Who exactly built this extraordinary device? Was it the product of a lone genius, or the combined effort of a team of ancient engineers working within an advanced workshop long since forgotten? Where did the knowledge to create such a complex mechanism come from? Was it rooted in the astronomical traditions of Greece, inherited from Babylon or Egypt? Or could it have originated from an entirely lost civilization that history has overlooked? We are also left to wonder how many other similar devices might once have existed. Could there be more fragments lying undiscovered on the sea floor, waiting to rewrite what we know about ancient technology? And perhaps the most profound question of all, have we been underestimating the intelligence and capabilities of our ancestors far more than we ever realized? The Antikythera mechanism is not just a machine. It's a profound reminder that history is not as linear or simple as we often believe, that ancient knowledge may have surpassed modern assumptions, and that every artifact we uncover has the power to rewrite what we think we know about the past. Among the many mysteries that have puzzled historians, geographers, and scientists for decades, the Piri Reis map stands as one of the most fascinating and confounding. Created in the year 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this map is not only a testament to the seafaring capabilities of its time, but also a window into an ancient, possibly lost knowledge system that continues to challenge modern understanding. Though only a fragment of the original map survives, the level of detail and unexpected geographical accuracy it contains, particularly regarding the coastlines of South America and Africa, is nothing short of astonishing. What do you think? Could ancient civilizations have had access to geographical knowledge long before modern explorers ever set sail? Let us know your theories in the comments below. The surviving portion of the Piri Reis map is drawn on gazelle skin parchment and is currently housed at the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul. What makes this fragment so extraordinary is not just its age or artistry, but the information it conveys, specifically its remarkably accurate depiction of certain parts of the world that, according to official history, had only just begun to be explored by Europeans at the time. Piri Reis himself claimed in the annotations on the map that his work was not original, but rather a compilation based on around 20 earlier maps. These included maps from ancient Greek sources, some believed to be from the time of Alexander the Great, as well as maps drawn by Arab geographers and even Christopher Columbus himself. In essence, Piri Reis acted more as a compiler and synthesizer of existing knowledge than an explorer or original cartographer. But it is precisely this eclectic combination of sources that makes the map so perplexing, because many of the details it contains were supposedly unknown in the early 16th century. Nowhere is this more evident than in the astonishing accuracy with which the map portrays the eastern coastline of South America and the western coastline of Africa. Modern cartographic analysis has confirmed that the map outlines these regions with surprising precision, despite being created more than 500 years ago and long before the development of advanced navigation tools like the chronometer or accurate longitudinal calculations. When comparing the Piri Reis map to satellite images, the fit of the South American coastline from the mouth of the Amazon all the way down to modern-day Argentina is remarkably close. It includes the bulge of Brazil and even some inland river systems with uncanny accuracy. How could such knowledge have been available to someone in the early 16th century, especially considering that many of these areas had not yet been thoroughly explored or charted by European explorers? The same can be said for the depiction of the African coast. From the Gulf of Guinea to the southern tip of the continent, the contours match modern cartographic data to a degree that is difficult to explain using conventional historical narratives. While the Portuguese were indeed exploring the coast of Africa during the 15th and early 16th centuries, the speed and extent of their knowledge dissemination are not believed to have been sufficient to produce such a comprehensive and accurate map by 1513, especially in an Ottoman context. One of the most crucial mysteries surrounding the Piri Reis map is this: where did its astonishingly accurate information truly come from? If Piri Reis's own notes are to be believed, that he compiled the map using around 20 earlier sources, then who created those original maps? Could it be that one or more ancient civilizations, now lost to time, possessed geographical knowledge far ahead of their era? Some researchers suggest that the map's precision may be the surviving trace of an extremely advanced ancient surveying technique, perhaps capable of charting coastlines from above or using instruments incompatible with the known technology of the 16th century. Others lean toward the theory that the knowledge was preserved and passed down across various civilizations, from Arab scholars to Byzantine and Phoenician traditions, before being distilled by Piri Reis at a unique moment in the Ottoman Empire. Either way, the map compels us to question what may have been lost in the currents of history. Compounding the mystery is the presence of numerous annotations made by Piri Reis himself on the map. These notes describe not only the sources he used, but also include information about strange creatures, sea monsters, and fantastical lands, blending known geography with myth and oral tradition. Yet even amid this folklore, the accurate coastal outlines suggest a core of scientific knowledge embedded in a shell of legend. One of the most controversial sections of the Piri Reis map is its southern region, where some researchers believe it may depict the coastline of Antarctica, specifically in an ice-free state. If this hypothesis were true, it would completely overturn our current understanding of ancient civilizations' geographical capabilities. Supporters of this idea point out that the landmass shown beneath South America closely resembles modern seismic maps of Queen Maud Land, a region of Antarctica now buried beneath miles of ice. Remarkably, this portion of the map seems to outline a clear coastline, something that today can only be determined using ground-penetrating radar, a technology that certainly did not exist in Piri Reis's time. If the map truly illustrates this region before it was covered in ice, it would suggest that its source may date back over 6,000 years, far beyond the scope of any known civilization. However, most mainstream scholars strongly reject this theory. They argue that differences in orientation, scale distortions, and the lack of archaeological evidence for ancient human presence in Antarctica are sufficient grounds for dismissal. Even so, the fact that this idea remains the subject of ongoing debate highlights just how mysterious and compelling the Piri Reis map continues to be. One lesser-known yet truly astonishing aspect of the Piri Reis map lies in the map projection technique it employs. The map appears to utilize a sophisticated form of portolan, charting a method based on compass directions, and lines maintaining constant angles rather than the familiar latitude and longitude system used today. However, what surprises many scholars is that the map also incorporates elements resembling modern map projections. There is visible distortion near the poles, and the overall layout suggests that the cartographer understood the Earth to be spherical. This fusion of classical and seemingly modern techniques has led to the hypothesis that Piri Reis, or more accurately, the ancient sources he relied on, may have accessed knowledge far beyond their time. Perhaps it was ancient understanding of the Earth's curvature and size passed down from civilizations that modern history has yet to recognize or that have been entirely forgotten. For skeptics, the Piri Reis map might be explained in simpler terms the result of excellent seafaring skills, oral knowledge accumulated over generations, and occasional exchanges of information between rival cultures. However, even these theories fall short of fully explaining how such fragmented data could be seamlessly and accurately compiled into a single cohesive map. It is precisely this refined integration, combined with its unexpected accuracy, that continues to puzzle and raise doubts among modern historians. The Piri Reis map is more than just an artifact, it is a challenge to historical orthodoxy. It forces us to confront the possibility that the narrative of global exploration and cartographic development may be incomplete, and that lost civilizations or forgotten scholars might have known far more than we currently believe. While much remains speculative, the map stands as a tangible reminder that history is not always what it seems, and that sometimes the answers to our deepest questions lie hidden in fragments waiting for someone to connect the dots. Among the ancient wonders that quietly defy modern understanding, the Iron Pillar of Delhi stands as one of the most baffling and scientifically provocative. At first glance, it might appear to be just another relic in the sprawling landscape of Indian historical monuments. Yet this unassuming, nearly 7-meter-tall iron column, weighing over 6 tons and standing solemnly in the Qutb complex of Mehrauli, has resisted the harsh test of time, weather, and science for over 1,600 years. And while its origin and purpose are still debated, it is the remarkable metallurgy, the technology behind the pillar itself, that draws the most fascination, puzzlement, and admiration. Do you think ancient civilizations could have mastered technologies we've lost today? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The Iron Pillar was likely erected in the 4th century CE during the reign of Chandragupta II, one of the prominent emperors of the Gupta Empire, often referred to as India's Golden Age. Inscriptions carved into the pillar using Sanskrit and the ancient Brahmi script praise a powerful king, presumably Chandragupta II, highlighting his strength, victories, and devotion to Vishnu. However, this historical context, while rich, is overshadowed by a much deeper mystery. How did ancient metallurgists manage to forge a pillar of pure wrought iron that has withstood corrosion for over a millennium and a half? Unlike modern iron structures that often rust quickly, even under good preservation conditions, the Iron Pillar of Delhi has withstood the humid climate, pollution, and extreme temperature changes of northern India for over 16 centuries, with virtually no signs of corrosion. This phenomenon cannot be explained by luck or favorable environment alone. Scientists today confirm that it is the result of a special ancient metallurgical technique, possibly accidental but incredibly effective, and to this day, modern technology still struggles to replicate it. Modern analysis reveals that the iron used in the pillar is of exceptionally high purity, with a very low sulfur and manganese content, elements that in excess typically compromise iron's durability. More significantly, the pillar's composition contains a high level of phosphorus, about 0.25%, compared to the negligible amounts found in most modern steel. This particular ratio of phosphorus played a crucial role in developing a unique protective layer on the surface of the iron over time. What truly sets the Iron Pillar of Delhi apart is not just its material composition, but the natural formation of a protective surface layer, a phenomenon known as passivation. This layer is essentially a stable crystalline form of iron hydrogen phosphate hydrate, which has the remarkable ability to block oxygen and moisture from penetrating the metal's interior. In modern metallurgy, this is a key process in producing stainless steel. But the astonishing fact is that ancient Indian metallurgists achieved this effect over 16 centuries ago entirely without modern furnaces, analytical tools, or formal chemical knowledge as we understand it today. Some experts believe that the high phosphorus content in the Iron Pillar of Delhi may not have been the result of intentional engineering, but rather a byproduct of the specific iron-making methods used at the time. Ancient Indian blacksmiths employed a forge welding technique using charcoal as the reducing agent instead of lime, which is commonly used in modern processes to remove phosphorus. The absence of lime meant that phosphorus was retained in the metal structure, which in turn contributed to the creation of naturally corrosion-resistant iron. Whether accidental or not, this outcome reflects a level of metallurgical sophistication far ahead of its time, raising the question, have we lost vital knowledge from the ancient world? This discovery has led many to reevaluate the level of technological sophistication present in ancient India, especially during the Gupta period. While Europe was still in the early stages of the post-Roman decline, Indian metallurgists were creating iron that in some ways outperformed modern commercial alloys. It's not an exaggeration to say that the Iron Pillar of Delhi represents one of the earliest known examples of materials science excellence. One factor that makes the Iron Pillar of Delhi even more mysterious is the sheer scale and uniformity of its entire structure. Successfully forging an iron column weighing 6 tons composed almost entirely of pure wrought iron would have been impossible without exceptional craftsmanship, large-scale furnace systems, and a deep understanding of material properties far beyond what was typical of other civilizations at the time. Although many small iron artifacts from that era have been discovered, none can compare in terms of size, durability, or corrosion resistance, making the pillar a truly singular phenomenon in the history of ancient metallurgy. Aside from the mystery of its metallurgy, the true origin and purpose of the Iron Pillar of Delhi remain a subject of academic debate. Some scholars believe it was erected as a religious symbol, honoring the god Vishnu, or as a victory pillar commemorating the reign of a powerful king. However, there is also a theory suggesting that the pillar was not originally erected at its current location, but may have been relocated from central India, where other high-quality iron artifacts have been discovered. Transporting such a 6-ton structure over hundreds of kilometers without damaging its integrity is a remarkable technical achievement, far exceeding what we typically assume about the logistical capabilities of ancient times. Modern scientists have applied a wide range of advanced analytical methods such as X-ray fluorescence, electron microscopy, and metallurgical structure analysis to uncover the secrets behind the Iron Pillar of Delhi. Yet, despite decades of in-depth study, they still cannot definitively explain why the pillar possesses such extraordinary resistance to corrosion. Was it the result of a deliberate metallurgical technique based on a precise understanding of materials, or merely an accidental outcome of local raw materials and traditional forging practices? That question continues to haunt researchers to this day. Some have even speculated about lost knowledge. If ancient Indian blacksmiths could create iron with such longevity, what else might they have known that didn't survive the passage of time? Were there other now eroded structures that once stood beside the Iron Pillar, demonstrating similar properties? The lack of similar examples has only fueled speculation about forgotten metallurgical knowledge or isolated genius. The iron pillar has also spawned myths and superstitions. For many years, visitors attempted to wrap their arms around it, believing that if their hands touched while encircling the pillar from behind, good fortune would come. This ritual became so popular that it began to damage the pillar's surface, eventually leading authorities to restrict physical contact altogether. In the broader narrative of human technological development, the Iron Pillar of Delhi stands as a quiet but powerful counterpoint. In an age when the focus often lies on digital advancement and space travel, this ancient monolith reminds us that our ancestors possessed an understanding of material and craft that could still teach us something today. It is an enduring symbol not only of Indian heritage, but also of human ingenuity that defies time and corrosion alike. So the next time someone tells you that ancient civilizations were technologically primitive, point them toward the Iron Pillar of Delhi, a pillar that refuses to rust, refuses to yield, and refuses to be fully explained. Beneath the scorching sands of Saqqara, hidden in a maze of rock-cut tunnels, lies one of the most confounding enigmas of ancient Egypt, a mystery so profound it challenges the very timeline of human history. This is the Serapeum. Not merely a tomb, but a subterranean vault, guarding dozens of granite boxes so massive, so precisely engineered, they defy everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. Carved from single blocks of stone weighing as much as 100 tons each and polished to mirror perfection, these boxes are not the work of primitive tools. They hint at a forgotten mastery, a lost chapter in human civilization, and perhaps a technology we were never meant to rediscover. What do you think these massive granite boxes were really made for? And who had the knowledge to build them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're curious to hear your theory. One of the most astonishing aspects for researchers is the sheer size and extraordinary material of the boxes found in the Serapeum. Each box stands taller than an adult, measures over 3 meters in length, and weighs between 70 and 100 tons. The lid alone can weigh up to 30 tons, yet it fits so perfectly atop the box that not even a razor blade could slip between the two surfaces. Even more remarkable is that each box was carved from a single block of granite, an incredibly hard stone that even modern tools struggle to cut. This granite was quarried in Aswan, more than 800 kilometers from Saqqara, raising a major question: how did the ancients transport and install such massive objects, especially within narrow underground chambers that lacked light space and stable footing? One of the most astonishing aspects for archaeologists is not just the size or weight of the stone boxes, but the incredible precision in their craftsmanship. The interior surfaces of the boxes are polished to the point of being reflective, while the corners are nearly perfect right angles. The manufacturing tolerances are measured at the microscopic level, achieving a degree of accuracy that even modern industrial standards struggle to match. The sharp cut lines, flawlessly straight joints, and consistent flat surfaces could not have been produced by traditional hand chiseling. They clearly reflect an intentional technical mindset with deep knowledge of spatial geometry and mechanical precision. This raises a critical question. What tools did the ancient Egyptians use to achieve such a level of craftsmanship? And if they weren't the true creators, then who was behind these mysterious boxes? One of the most controversial and difficult to explain features of the Serapeum lies in the cut marks and drill traces found on many of its massive stone boxes. Upon closer inspection, mechanical engineers and independent researchers, including those outside of traditional archaeology, have consistently concluded that these marks could not have been made using copper chisels or primitive stone tools, which are considered the only tools available during ancient Egyptian times. Instead, they display clear characteristics of high-speed rotary tools similar to modern core drilling machines. Deep, even spiral grooves encircling cylindrical holes exhibit an extremely high level of precision, with spacing between the spiral lines nearly uniform, a signature typically seen only in modern industrial machining. Additionally, the surfaces of many boxes are perfectly flat and polished like mirrors, showing no evidence of hand chiseling or natural fracturing. This has led many to suspect that either an unknown technology was used to grind and shape them, or that some form of mechanical equipment once existed in the distant past. What's even more striking is that this isn't an isolated case. From Giza to Abydos, many other ancient stone structures, especially those lacking clear religious function, show similar signs of precision machining. Yet the Serapeum stands out for three key reasons. First, this exceptional level of workmanship is consistently repeated across dozens of boxes with no signs of trial and error or flawed execution. Second, the sheer scale and complexity of each box is far beyond anything that could be considered decorative or experimental. And third, transporting and installing multi-ton boxes into deep, narrow, lightless underground chambers remains an enigma, far beyond the capacity of any known ancient tools or methods. Once we entertain the hypothesis that the stone boxes at the Serapeum were crafted using core drilling, abrasive grinding, or mechanical milling with industrial-level precision, it becomes more than just an archaeological curiosity. It challenges the very foundation of what we believe about ancient Egyptian technology. To this day, there is no solid evidence that the Egyptians possessed lathes, drills, or high-speed cutting tools, nor is there any trace of systems or equipment capable of lifting, transporting, and precisely positioning multi-ton stone structures deep within dark, narrow underground tunnels. The absence of technical evidence contrasted with artifacts that clearly exhibit high mechanical precision has pushed many researchers to propose bold and unconventional theories. Some believe these boxes are remnants of a pre-Egyptian civilization lost to history, possibly one on par with the legendary Atlantis. Others suggest they may be the legacy of an extraterrestrial civilization that once visited Earth. More moderate views propose that ancient elite engineering groups may have existed whose knowledge was far ahead of their time, but eventually vanished due to war, natural disasters, or cultural collapse. One of the key reasons researchers question the true purpose of the Serapeum boxes lies in what was found inside them, or more precisely, in their unusual emptiness. According to mainstream theory, the Serapeum was constructed as a burial site for the sacred Apis bulls, revered animals believed to embody the god Ptah. However, when archaeologists opened these massive boxes, they did not find any complete mummified remains as expected. Instead, they discovered only a few fragmented, unidentifiable bones, and in many cases, the boxes were completely empty, appearing to have never been disturbed since they were first sealed. This raises a profound question: if these were truly sacred sarcophagi, why were they left empty? Given their enormous weight, airtight design, and astonishing precision, many researchers have proposed that these boxes were not originally intended for burial at all. Instead, they may have been used to store or preserve something of great importance. Theories range from resonant sound chambers and energy storage units to components of an ancient technology that modern science has yet to understand. Another fascinating anomaly surrounding the stone boxes at the Serapeum is the complete absence of any carvings, symbols, or hieroglyphs. In ancient Egyptian culture, nearly all sacred structures, especially tombs, were richly inscribed with royal names, prayers, or religious motifs. Yet the Serapeum boxes are almost entirely smooth and undecorated, showing no signs that they were dedicated to any pharaoh or associated with a specific ritual. This eerie silence has led many researchers to suspect that these boxes may not have been created by the ancient Egyptians at all, but rather reused by them for ceremonial purposes. If that's the case, a much bigger question arises: who originally built them, And why did they leave no trace or message for future generations? The Serapeum boxes are not merely ancient relics buried in stone. They are tangible proof of an engineering mindset, possibly even a worldview that we have yet to fully grasp. They force us to question the accepted historical timeline, the true capabilities of ancient civilizations, and whether modern humanity truly understands its own past. At first glance, it looks like just another ornate glass cup from the Roman Empire. But shine a light through it, and something mind-bending happens. It changes color like magic. For centuries, no one could explain it. Today, scientists know why. And the answer is so shocking, it rewrites what we thought the ancients were capable of. Crafted over 16 centuries ago, this seemingly simple cup contains nano-engineering so advanced it rivals modern-day materials science. Could Roman artisans have unlocked the secrets of nanotechnology over 1,000 years before we even had the word for it? So what do you think? Could the ancient Romans have mastered nanotechnology centuries before modern science even gave it a name? Share your thoughts in the comments below. At first glance, the Lycurgus cup appears to be a classic piece of Roman art, expertly crafted, adorned with mythological carvings, and made of glass, a material highly favored by Roman aristocrats. However, a strange phenomenon emerges when light interacts with it. When light is shone from the front, the cup glows with a cool green hue. But when light passes through it from behind, its color instantly shifts to a vivid blood-like ruby red. This color-shifting effect, known as dichroism, is extremely rare in both nature and man-made objects. To ancient people, it must have seemed like a form of magic. Yet for modern scientists, it raises a much deeper question: how could Roman artisans living more than 1,000 years ago possibly create such a complex optical effect without access to any sophisticated tools or instruments? It wasn't until the 1990s, nearly 1,600 years after the Lycurgus cup was created, that modern scientists analyzed it using advanced tools such as electron microscopes. And what they discovered astonished the scientific world. The glass of the cup contains metal nanoparticles, specifically gold and silver, measuring only about 50 to 100 nanometers. These particles are so incredibly small that they are invisible to the naked eye and can only be detected with cutting-edge technology. When light strikes these ultrafine metal particles, it triggers a phenomenon called surface plasmon resonance, an effect that causes the material's color to shift depending on the direction of the light. This is far from a simple visual trick. It is one of the fundamental principles of modern nano-optics, a field now applied in biological sensors, smart materials, and advanced anti-counterfeiting systems. What's truly remarkable is that the presence of these nanoparticles in the cup could not have been accidental. The gold and silver were mixed in precise ratios, distributed evenly throughout the glass, and most impressively, the particle sizes are nearly uniform, all of which indicate an extraordinary level of control and refinement far beyond what typical ancient craftsmanship could achieve. Even with today's technology, replicating this effect requires sophisticated equipment and high-level expertise. This raises a profound question. Did the ancient Romans truly understand the principles of nanotechnology, or did they stumble upon it after centuries of experimentation and refinement? Or perhaps they once possessed a secretive crafting tradition, an entire field of technology that has been completely lost to history. To this day, no ancient texts have ever documented the process used to create the Lycurgus cup. No second artifact with the same optical properties has ever been discovered. This makes the Lycurgus cup the only surviving object of a lost glass-making technique, and perhaps even the last remnant of an entirely distinct branch of technology that once existed in history but has since been buried by time. Some scholars suggest that the cup's strange dichroic effect may have been the result of chance, possibly arising from centuries of experimentation where precious metals accidentally fell into molten glass. Over time, artisans may have noticed the color-changing phenomenon and gradually learned to exploit it. However, the accidental discovery theory becomes increasingly difficult to defend when we examine the extraordinary precision in the ratio distribution and uniform size of the metallic nanoparticles found in the glass. Achieving such results could not have relied on luck alone. It would have required deep knowledge, accumulated experience, and an incredibly refined level of control. Things we still aren't certain the ancients truly possessed, or perhaps we have simply underestimated them. One of the most fascinating and bold theories proposed in recent years is that the Lycurgus cup may have been more than just a work of art or ceremonial object. It might have functioned as a primitive environmental sensor. This idea stems from modern studies in which glass samples containing similar gold and silver nanoparticles were shown to change color when exposed to different liquids. This same mechanism has now been used to develop biological sensors capable of detecting viruses, bacteria, or even early signs of cancer just through visible changes in color. Such findings raise a provocative question: could the ancient Romans have used the Lycurgus cup to test the purity of wine, detect poison, or perform sacred rituals involving the examination of special liquids? While there is no concrete evidence yet to confirm this theory, it opens up an entirely new perspective. The Lycurgus cup might not only be a beautiful artifact, it could also be a surviving remnant of a once advanced technology lost to time. In addition to its technological marvels, the Lycurgus cup stands out for its deeply symbolic carvings, like a mythological epic told through light. The surface of the cup depicts King Lycurgus of Thrace, who once defied the wine god Dionysus and was punished by the gods. He is shown entangled in vines, struggling against semi-human, semi-divine figures, clearly expressing themes of defiance against divinity, human arrogance, and the inevitable price of rebellion. What's remarkable is how the imagery changes depending on the angle of light, at times vivid, at others faint, creating the feeling of a living story shifting with every perspective. This color transformation is not merely a physical effect. It may well have been an intentional artistic choice, using light itself as a narrative tool to recreate the mythological world of Greece and Rome, layered with meaning, sin, punishment, the supernatural, and the inescapable fate that follows. Today, the Lycurgus cup is displayed at the British Museum as one of humanity's most precious cultural treasures. However, what truly sets this cup apart is not just its beauty or age, but the way it challenges the boundaries of modern scientific understanding. It forces us to pause and reflect how much ancient knowledge, technology, and craftsmanship has been lost to time. Is modern science truly the pinnacle of human progress, or are we merely rediscovering truths that our ancestors once knew, but that history allowed to fade into obscurity? At first glance, it looks simple, just a giant stone resting quietly in a shallow pond in rural Japan. But take a step closer, and the illusion shatters. This isn't just a rock. It's a mystery, carved in silence, a colossal monolith, sculpted with impossible precision, never moved, never explained, and never finished. Hidden in the sleepy town of Takasago, Ishi no Hoden has no builder, no date, and no known purpose. It floats seemingly weightless on still water that never dries. Its shape is flawless, its presence haunting. For over 1,000 years, it has defied gravity, logic, and history, and today it dares us to question everything we think we know about the past. But what do you think it really is? Could it be a forgotten temple, an ancient machine, or something else entirely? Share your theory in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Ishi no Hoden is shaped like a rectangular block with astonishingly smooth and flat sides nearly 7 meters long, about 5 meters wide, and more than 2.5 meters high. With these dimensions, it is estimated to weigh over 500 tons. What's most impressive, however, is not just its weight or shape, it's the method of its creation. The stone was not cut out and moved into place, but rather carved directly from the bedrock, with all the surrounding material meticulously removed to reveal its current shape, a reverse sculpting technique unseen in any other known ancient Japanese construction. When examined closely, Ishi no Hoden reveals an astonishing level of precision that seems far beyond the capabilities of its assumed time period. The edges are razor-sharp, the corners meet with almost perfect right angles, and every surface appears flawlessly smooth, showing no visible marks of chiseling, cracking, or wear. This is highly unusual for a monument supposedly carved in antiquity using primitive tools. Even more intriguing is the raised square block on top of the stone, seamlessly connected to the main body. It doesn't serve any clear structural function, yet it was carved with the same care and symmetry, suggesting intentional design. Was it symbolic, ritualistic, or something more technical? This seemingly simple stone peg deepens the mystery, hinting at a forgotten knowledge behind the monument's construction. One of the most critical questions surrounding Ishi no Hoden is this: how could ancient people carve such a massive stone with machine-like precision, despite having no modern tools like laser cutters, CNC machines, or rotary equipment? Some theories suggest that ancient Japanese craftsmen may have used iron tools, but during the Kofun period, 3rd to 7th century metalworking technology in Japan was still quite primitive. There is no evidence that they possessed techniques refined enough to shape stone with such extraordinary accuracy. As a result, some researchers have gone further, proposing that Ishi no Hoden might be the remnant of a forgotten civilization, one that possessed technology far beyond what mainstream history has acknowledged. If this theory holds any truth, it could completely reshape our understanding of the ancient past. What baffles archaeologists most is the reverse carving technique demonstrated at Ishi no Hoden. Unlike most ancient structures built by stacking stones, this monument appears to have been shaped by removing all the unnecessary material directly from the bedrock, revealing a perfectly formed block. Such a process requires extreme precision and a deep understanding of three-dimensional geometry. Even the slightest mistake could have cracked the entire stone or thrown it out of balance. Yet Ishi no Hoden shows no such flaws. Its sides are nearly perfectly parallel. The corners are precisely cut at right angles, and the entire block looks as if it was shaped using modern machinery rather than ancient tools. Beyond its form and size, its location adds to the mystery. The monument sits in the center of a small pond, and bizarrely, this pond never dries up. Whether in drought or rain, the water remains clear and consistent, only a few dozen centimeters deep. No one knows where the water comes from. The stone reflects perfectly on the surface, creating the illusion that it's floating, reinforcing the feeling that this isn't just a structure, but possibly a piece of art or a sacred symbol with spiritual significance. What makes Ishi no Hoden even more mysterious is the complete absence of any historical records, ancient texts, or folklore related to its construction or purpose. While most ancient tombs and shrines in Japan are accompanied by some form of trace, from stone inscriptions and documents to folk legends, Ishi no Hoden exists entirely outside any known written history. Only a few vague myths associated with Shinto deities like Okunanushi and Sukuna Hikona, who are said to have played a role in Japan's early creation. Yet even these stories offer no real explanation for the true purpose of this colossal stone. A common theory suggests that Ishi no Hoden might have been the foundation of an unfinished ancient temple. However, this idea raises several doubts. If it were truly an incomplete construction, why would the builders abandon it after completing the most difficult part, the precisely carved monolithic block? Furthermore, there are no traces nearby, indicating continued construction, such as pillar bases, walls, or flooring. And if this stone was merely one piece of a much larger complex, then where did the rest go? To this day, none of these questions have received a convincing answer. If Ishi no Hoden was not the foundation of an unfinished architectural structure, then what was its true purpose? Many scholars have speculated that it could have been a massive work of art, created not for practical use, but for contemplation perhaps, as a religious or spiritual symbol. Others believe it might once have served as an ancient astronomical observatory, a place where people aligned with celestial events such as the sun's position or the stars. Particularly intriguing is the square stone peg protruding from the top. It has no structural function, yet its precise shape has led some to suggest it may have once held a sacred object or served as a marker for astronomical alignment. However, to this day, all of these theories remain purely speculative. There is no concrete evidence revealing the true purpose behind this mysterious monument. Given the absence of historical documentation and lack of similar examples, Ishi no Hoden is considered one of Japan's greatest archaeological enigmas. It is often mentioned alongside other mysterious sites, like the underwater ruins of Yonaguni, the keyhole-shaped Kofun tombs, and the strange statues of Asuka. But among them, Ishi no Hoden stands out as the clearest example of ultra-precise ancient engineering where science, technology, art, and mysticism converge. What makes this structure even more intriguing is the overwhelming sense that it's out of place. A monument like this should belong to a society with advanced technical knowledge capable of measuring, shaping, and handling hard stone with exactitude. And yet it sits silently in a quiet rural area, far from ancient power centers or urban settlements. There is nothing nearby, suggesting a once complex society capable of creating it. This leads to a bold but unavoidable hypothesis. Perhaps this structure does not come from the ancient Japan we know, but from a civilization even older or based on an entirely different way of thinking. Today, though preserved and open to visitors, Ishi no Hoden remains silent. It offers no explanations, no clues, and no answers to the efforts of modern researchers. Yet in this silence lies its true power. It stands as a symbol of the wonders we have yet to comprehend, and a reminder that no matter how advanced our technology becomes, there will always be remnants of ancient genius that lie just beyond our grasp. In the quarries of Aswan, Egypt, lies a giant that never stood. A colossal monument that was meant to pierce the skies, but instead remains frozen in time, still bound to the very bedrock from which it was born. This is the unfinished obelisk, a 42-meter-long stone that weighs an estimated 1,200 tons, making it the largest known ancient obelisk ever attempted. Its incomplete form lies partially carved into the rose-colored granite of Aswan's quarry, offering a rare, almost intrusive peek into the industrial ambition of ancient Egypt and into the mind of a civilization that sought to move mountains literally. But beyond its sheer size and grandeur, the most captivating mystery of the unfinished obelisk is not why it was abandoned, that is well documented, but how it was even attempted in the first place. Because when we look at the tools ancient Egyptians are believed to have used, copper chisels, dolerite, pounding stones, and rudimentary levers, a puzzling contradiction emerges. These tools seem disproportionately primitive when compared to the monumental precision and scale of what they were trying to achieve. The obelisk was not quarried from loose stone, but carved directly out of solid bedrock, which adds several layers of complexity and controversy to its story. Could the ancient Egyptians really have carved and moved a 1,200-ton obelisk with just simple tools? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your theory. Obelisks held profound symbolic meaning in ancient Egyptian religion and culture. They were often placed in pairs at the entrances of temples and were dedicated to the sun god Ra. Their shape, a tall, tapering shaft with a pyramidion at the top, represented a petrified ray of sunlight, serving as a physical and spiritual conduit between heaven and earth. Carved from a single piece of stone, each obelisk was not only a religious offering, but a powerful demonstration of engineering prowess and centralized authority. The unfinished obelisk, if completed, would have dwarfed every obelisk that stands today, including those now displayed in Rome, Paris, London, and New York. It was most likely commissioned during the reign of Queen Hatshepsut in the 15th century BCE, one of Egypt's most ambitious and powerful rulers. Her building campaigns were legendary, and this obelisk may have been intended for her temple complex at Karnak or Luxor. The obelisk was ultimately never completed. Cracks appeared in the granite during the carving process, particularly near the base, rendering the entire monolith structurally unstable and unsuitable for transportation or erection. The workers simply abandoned the effort, leaving behind a perfectly preserved snapshot of ancient engineering in progress. At first glance, this seems straightforward, a failed project left in the quarry. But this abandonment turned out to be an archaeological blessing in disguise. For unlike other obelisks that were completed, moved, and altered over millennia, the unfinished obelisk remains, embedded in its original environment, with its tool marks, trenches, and working platforms still intact. It is, in effect, an open-air textbook on ancient stoneworking. What makes the unfinished obelisk so captivating is not just its colossal size or its religious symbolism, but rather the unresolved mystery. How could the ancient Egyptians carve detached transport and erect a single block of granite, weighing more than 1,200 tons, using only the primitive tools described in historical records? According to the widely accepted view in mainstream archaeology, ancient workers used dolerite, a very hard volcanic stone, to pound against the granite surface, gradually chiseling out the trenches around the obelisk. Spherical dolerite stones have indeed been found around the Aswan quarry, supporting the reconstruction of this method. Dozens, possibly hundreds of laborers, taking turns to hammer at the rock continuously for years. However, a deeper analysis reveals many inconsistencies in this theory. First is the issue of material and efficiency. Granite has a Mohs hardness rating between 6 and 7, while dolerite is rated around 7, meaning the tool is only slightly harder than the material being worked on. This results in extremely low efficiency, implying it would take decades of continuous labor with a level of precision that seems implausible if done entirely by hand. Next comes the issue of technical accuracy. The separation trenches around the obelisk display consistent length, uniform depth, and smooth, straight surfaces, all of which suggest a high level of control and planning, which would be incredibly difficult to achieve by hand-pounding alone. Modern engineers have questioned how such precise depth and alignment could be maintained without any measuring instruments, templates, or metal-cutting tools. Finally, there is a critical issue often overlooked. How did they separate the obelisk from the bedrock underneath? Even after cutting 3 sides, and the bottom would still need to be fully severed for the obelisk to be removed. Yet there are no tool marks, no bottom trench, and no historical documentation describing how this final step was done adding even more mystery to the story. The absence of a reasonable explanation for how massive obelisks, like the one in Aswan, were quarried and transported has led many independent researchers to propose bolder theories. Some believe that a lost ancient technology may have once existed, such as tools that used sound waves or vibrational energy to cut stone. Others lean toward the idea that the obelisk was the product of a pre-Egyptian civilization, one with superior engineering knowledge that has since vanished without leaving clear traces. While these theories are often labeled as fringe, they do touch on a valid point. Are we underestimating the true capabilities of the ancient world? Another puzzling aspect is that the Egyptians were meticulous record keepers, documenting everything from religious rituals to grain storage, yet there are no surviving texts explaining how they carved, separated, or erected obelisks. This raises a question. Was the technique so sacred that it was reserved only for a priestly elite? Or was it so commonplace that they never thought it necessary to record either way? This silence remains a major gap in our understanding. Today, the unfinished obelisk rests quietly in the Aswan quarry, exposed to the desert sun and the passing of centuries. Tourists can walk alongside its massive length, descending into the narrow channels that would have once surrounded workers hammering away day and night. It's one of the few places in the world where you can quite literally stand inside an ancient engineering failure and feel awe, not disappointment. Yet the site remains relatively unheralded, overshadowed by the glamour of the pyramids and the allure of Tutankhamun's tomb. But for those who care to look, the unfinished obelisk may be the most revealing monument of all, not because it was completed, but because it wasn't. Because it allows us to see the raw interface between human ambition and natural limitation. As we stand in the quarry, facing this enormous stone, still tethered to the earth, we are faced with a question that refuses to go away. How did they plan to lift it? How do you raise 1,200 tons with no cranes, no engines, no steel cables? Even today, with modern cranes, moving such a monolith would be extraordinarily difficult and expensive. Are we underestimating the engineering sophistication of the ancients? Or are we missing something fundamental? The unfinished obelisk doesn't give answers. It simply waits a riddle in stone, a timeless monument, not to what humans have achieved, but to what we still don't understand. Not far from Nanjing, once the capital and political center of ancient China, lies Yangshan Quarry, a place that at first glance looks like nothing more than a peaceful limestone mountain range. Yet hidden behind that tranquil landscape is one of the most perplexing archaeological and engineering mysteries ever discovered, an ancient quarry containing the largest stone blocks ever carved by human hands, none of which were ever moved. Even more astonishing are the cuts left on these massive stones, which continue to baffle modern scientists and engineers due to their extraordinary precision, a level of accuracy that seems to defy everything we know about technology in the 15th century. What do you think could explain this level of precision over 600 years ago? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your theory. Yangshan Quarry is most famous for 3 massive stones that were carved in preparation for a monument of unprecedented scale, the largest and tallest stele ever conceived in Chinese history. The largest block, known as the base stele, weighs about 8,799 tons, is over 30 meters long and more than 16 meters high. The second block, the body of the stele, weighs close to 7,600 tons, and the top portion of the stele is estimated at 6,118 tons. In total, these 3 blocks weigh over 22,000 tons, roughly equivalent to 3,000 adult African elephants. Uniquely, all 3 blocks still lie in situ, anchored to the quarry floor, having never been moved nor assembled into any monument as originally intended. According to historical records, this project began during the reign of Emperor Yongle Judi, the founding emperor of the Ming dynasty, known for commissioning the Forbidden City. The stele was meant to honor his father, but as quarrying neared completion, engineers realized that the blocks were simply too large to be transported using any means available at the time. The project was ultimately abandoned, and the colossal blocks were left behind, perhaps as a symbol of imperial ambition gone awry. But the story doesn't end there. The fact that these stones were never moved and remain perfectly intact offers modern researchers a rare and unfiltered look into the ancient quarrying process, the stone-cutting techniques, and especially the astonishing technical accuracy achieved by craftsmen centuries ago. Upon close inspection of the remaining cut grooves, both archaeologists and modern engineers are stunned by the perfectly straight uniform and clean lines, completely unlike the jagged, rough marks typically seen in other ancient quarries. The cuts here display an extraordinary control over force, consistent depth, and especially angles that are nearly perfectly square. This raises a major question. How in the 15th century, with no modern machinery, no laser-guided tools, and no diamond wire saws, could humans have achieved such a result? Numerous theories have been proposed to explain this phenomenon. Some researchers suggest that ancient workers may have used large wooden frames combined with plumb lines to maintain vertical precision when cutting. Others believe that they might have relied on high-quality iron or steel tools forged repeatedly and kept razor-sharp to ensure maximum efficiency. Another proposed method is step-layer cutting, in which each layer was carefully calculated in angle and depth, requiring precise coordination among worker groups. Notably, it's also possible they used water-soaked wooden wedges, a technique known from ancient Egypt, to split the rock, but executed here with an unprecedented degree of control and synchronization. What's even more mysterious is that nowhere on the rock surfaces do we see signs of correction or error. The cuts are decisive, deliberate, and consistently smooth, indicating an extremely disciplined organizational process in which every step of extraction was planned and executed methodically, leaving no room for mistakes. The harmonious coordination between labor teams is evident from how all cuts connect seamlessly and without misalignment, as if the entire process were overseen by a centralized engineering mind. This is not just elite craftsmanship. It reflects a strategic system of construction thinking and organizational logic. Some scholars even go so far as to question whether this level of technical mastery exceeded the capabilities of the Ming dynasty. If that's the case, could the quarry have been used much earlier in history by a civilization that has since vanished? From the records, geological surveys around the area show signs of older cutting patterns buried deep within the bedrock, but no official conclusions have been made. One of the most perplexing questions surrounding the Yangshan quarry is this: why did ancient builders deliberately carve stone blocks so massive that they couldn't be transported? Normally, ancient engineers would assess the feasibility of moving and assembling materials before starting a project. Yet in this case, it seems that the ambition of the project's overseer far outstripped the boundaries of practical planning. This may not have been merely a construction effort, but rather a political statement, a bold display of imperial power, perhaps even carrying a divine undertone. Some also suggest it was a test of human limits, a challenge to see how far mankind could go in bending nature to its will. An even bolder theory proposes that the project was never truly meant to be completed. The three gigantic stone blocks left embedded in the mountain may not represent failure, but rather a symbol of eternal power. They didn't need to be erected. Their very presence, immovable and monumental, was enough to etch the emperor's legacy into the earth. From a technical perspective, the project's abandonment has become a hidden blessing for modern researchers. Because it was never finished, The cutting marks, quarrying methods, and entire extraction process remain nearly intact, transforming the site into a one-of-a-kind, open-air museum of ancient stoneworking, preserving details that time would have otherwise erased. When compared to other famous megalithic sites, such as Stonehenge in England, Baalbek in Lebanon, or the pyramids of Giza in Egypt, the stone blocks at Yangshan stand out not only for their immense weight, but also for the unique fact that they were never moved. Remaining in their original position eliminates any distortion caused by post-extraction handling, allowing modern researchers to directly study unaltered original tool marks and quarrying techniques. Some Western scholars even describe Yangshan as a supersized version of megalithic engineering, a project frozen mid-execution, as if a divine construction was abandoned before completion. Yangshan Quarry is a spectacular paradox in engineering history. On one hand, it demonstrates unmatched craftsmanship and technical mastery. On the other, it stands as a testament to the limits of human ambition. The impossibly accurate cuts defy our assumptions about what was possible in the 15th century and suggest that lost knowledge or forgotten techniques may still be buried in history. Yangshan is more than just a relic, it is a colossal question, carved in stone, silently waiting for answers for more than 6 centuries. Amidst the arid sands and winds of Taima, Saudi Arabia, once a resting place for ancient caravans, stands a natural phenomenon so strange it has astonished both scientists and mystery enthusiasts alike, the Al-Nasla rock. At first glance, it appears to be just a large sandstone boulder standing alone in the desert. But upon closer inspection, what leaves everyone speechless is the cut running straight through the rock, flawless, smooth, as if carved by a modern laser. A division so perfect it's almost irrational. No secondary cracks, no signs of crumbling, just a single immaculate separation, as if some invisible giant blade had effortlessly sliced the many-ton rock in two, leaving it behind as a challenge to human history. What do you think caused this perfect cut? Nature lost technology or something else entirely? Drop your theory in the comments below. The most baffling feature of Al-Nasla rock and the heart of its mystery is the impossibly perfect cut that splits it cleanly in two. Unlike any known geological fracture, this division doesn't resemble the jagged, chaotic patterns caused by earthquakes or the slow erosion of time. Instead, the cut runs like a flawless vertical plane, smooth and precise, as if drawn by the hand of an engineer, not the randomness of nature. There are no uneven edges, no signs of crumbling, no debris, just a razor-thin gap that separates the two halves standing eerily close yet not connected. Even more bewildering is how both halves remain upright, perfectly balanced on thin, narrow stone bases, as if defying gravity itself. These pedestals look fragile compared to the weight they bear, and yet they have withstood centuries of desert winds and shifting sands. To a casual observer, the entire formation resembles a deliberate sculpture, something placed, positioned, and crafted with intent. But by whom and how? The sheer perfection of the cut challenges everything we understand about natural rock formations, forcing us to question whether this is a product of geological forces or something far more extraordinary. Although many geologists have tried to explain the flawless cut of the Al-Nasla rock, every theory so far has encountered contradictions that are hard to ignore. Some suggest that the split may have formed due to thermal expansion and contraction between day and night, combined with the erosive forces of wind, sand, and rainwater seeping into the rock and gradually building pressure. However, this explanation fails to satisfy many observers because the cut is too straight, even too perfect. In the entire history of geology and archaeology, there are almost no records of any naturally formed fracture reaching the level of surgical precision seen here. If this really is the result of natural weathering, then the next question is, why has only Al-Nasla split like this while the surrounding rocks under the same climate and geological conditions show no similar features? Suppose this were a tectonic fault line. Where are the traces of stratigraphic displacement? Why is there no deformation around it? No signs of accompanying cracks. Nature may be powerful and unpredictable, but it rarely operates with this kind of laser-like accuracy. Another theory proposes that a small crack formed thousands of years ago and rainwater gradually seeped in and froze during rare cold spells, creating internal pressure that split the rock. But this hypothesis has also been quickly dismissed. The Taima region receives extremely low rainfall year-round, and its climate history shows almost no evidence of natural freezing. In short, although several explanations have been proposed, none has truly convinced the public or the scientific community. That cut still stands challenging both modern science and the limits of our imagination. Some bold theories suggest that Al-Nasla may not be a natural phenomenon at all, but rather the creation of an ancient civilization with technology far ahead of its time. What draws attention to this idea is the image of a horse carved on the surface of the rock, evidence that ancient people once approached and left their mark here. However, this leads to a major contradiction. If they only had the ability to make simple carvings, how could they have split such a massive rock with a cut so perfect it defies belief? Copper or iron tools found in the area are entirely incapable of producing such a razor-sharp incision, especially on solid sandstone like this. This has led to further speculation there may have once existed a lost technological capability, or perhaps even intervention from an extraterrestrial force, something far beyond what our current understanding of history and science can explain. The Al-Nasla rock is not merely a stone split in two. It feels like a blurred line between what we know and what we don't, between the randomness of nature and the precision of intelligence. It stands there, silent, mysterious, like a natural anomaly, yet also like a sacred monument, or a gate to an unexplained world. To archaeologists, it is a geological miracle. To ancient theorists, it is evidence of a forgotten era. To futurists, it might be a trace of otherworldly design. But regardless of one's view, everyone agrees Al-Nasla challenges our logic and defies conventional definitions of what is natural. The location of Al-Nasla rock also adds another layer of mystery to the story, as it doesn't lie in some nameless desert, but is situated right in Taima, one of the oldest continuously inhabited areas on the Arabian Peninsula. According to ancient records, this region has been settled for over 3,000 years, and once served as an important center of trade and culture. Notably, it is linked to the last king of the Babylonian Empire, Nabonidus, who is believed to have withdrawn from the capital to live in seclusion in Taima for an extended period. The fact that such a powerful monarch chose this place as his refuge has led many scholars to believe that Taima was not just a trading hub, but possibly a center of knowledge, gathering scholars, astrologers, merchants, and perhaps even ancient engineers. If that's true, then could Al-Nasla truly be just a geological coincidence? Or might it be a remnant of a civilization whose technological mastery far exceeded what we thought was possible? To this day, Al-Nasla rock has no widely accepted scientific explanation. It stands in silence in the desert, a riddle without an answer. That clean, decisive cut continues to puzzle researchers, archaeologists, geologists, and millions of curious minds around the globe. So if you ever find yourself in the Taima Desert, take a moment to stand before Al-Nasla. Gaze into that impossibly straight cut. Ask yourself, how could this have happened? You may not find the answer, but you will never forget that moment when you stood face to face with one of the strangest geological mysteries humanity has ever encountered. Located on the southeastern coast of Easter Island, Rapa Nui, the most isolated island on Earth, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, Ahu Vinapu is one of the most mysterious structures ever built by humankind. Although it's less famous than the iconic Moai statues, this site draws the attention of archaeologists and lovers of ancient history due to one peculiar feature. It embodies an architectural style strikingly similar to the stonework of the Inca civilization in South America, thousands of kilometers across the ocean. Looking at the walls of Ahu Vinapu, one immediately notices the astonishing craftsmanship in the arrangement of the stone blocks. Unlike other locations on the island where large stones are stacked in a basic manner, the stones here are cut-polished and joined with absolute precision, with no mortar or adhesive needed. Even more remarkably, the joints between the stones are so tight that not even a sheet of paper or a razor blade can fit between them, a feat that modern technology still struggles to replicate without laser-cutting tools. Do you think the people of Easter Island learned this technique on their own, or could there have been ancient contact with the Inca civilization? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The striking similarity between the construction techniques at Ahu Vinapu and the famous stoneworks of the Inca Empire in South America, especially those found in Cusco and Sacsayhuaman, has left many researchers astonished. In both locations, ancient builders used massive stone blocks, cut with such high precision that the joints fit together perfectly without the need for mortar, to the point that not even a sheet of paper could be inserted between them. What makes this even more remarkable is that these two civilizations were separated by nearly 4,000 kilometers of open ocean, with no clear historical evidence of any direct contact. So how could a small island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean develop a construction method so similar to that of a powerful continental empire like the Inca? Some mainstream scholars argue that this is a case of independent development, driven by each society's unique needs. However, the level of similarity in form, method, and craftsmanship makes that explanation increasingly difficult to accept. Some non-traditional researchers have boldly suggested that there may have been ancient transoceanic voyages, either from South America to Rapa Nui or in the opposite direction. While such ideas were once dismissed as fringe theories, they are now being re-examined in light of new evidence from genetic studies, ancient navigation models, and the unusual appearance of South American crops on distant Polynesian islands. Recent genetic studies on the inhabitants of Easter Island have revealed ancestral traces linked to South American populations, particularly from a time before Europeans ever set foot on the island. This discovery strengthens the theory that there was once cultural interaction between two civilizations separated by thousands of kilometers, even though the exact timeline and means of contact remain unknown. Additionally, certain crops native to South America, such as sweet potatoes, have been found and cultivated on the island since ancient times, serving as biological clues that goods, plants, and perhaps even people may have been transported across the ocean in prehistoric times. If this theory is true, then Ahu Vinapu is not just an ancient stone structure. It is a silent witness carved in stone, marking a cross-cultural encounter or influence that mainstream history has largely overlooked. Those flawlessly interlocked stones may in fact be telling a story, one that has yet to be written in the history of humankind. In addition to the impressive Inca-style stone construction, Ahu Vinapu also holds several other strange elements that raise even more unanswered questions. One of the most striking differences is the orientation of the Moai statues. Across most of Easter Island, the Moai face inland, believed to be watching over and protecting ancient villages. However, at Ahu Vinapu, at least one Moai statue is believed to face the ocean, which goes entirely against this usual pattern. This rare detail has led some researchers to propose that the area may have once been used for ocean-oriented rituals, possibly connected to ancestral sea voyages or in reverence to deities from across the sea. Beyond that, Ahu Vinapu features a moai statue with an unusually feminine form clearly showing a chest and curving body lines. This is rarely seen as most moai statues portray a stern masculine appearance. Although this particular statue has now collapsed and been damaged, its unusual shape has led many to speculate that it may have represented a fertility goddess or symbolized the sacred role of women in the ancient spiritual beliefs of the Rapa Nui people, a subject still shrouded in mystery and awaiting deeper understanding. Unfortunately, Ahu Vinapu has not been preserved intact like many other ancient sites. During World War II, the area was used by the US military as an artillery testing and training ground, which led to severe damage to parts of the ancient stone structure, destroying many valuable details beyond repair. Additionally, archaeological excavations during the 20th century were also criticized by experts for a lack of care in restoration and preservation of the site's original condition. This has made it much more difficult for modern researchers to reconstruct the original layout and accurately analyze the structure, obscuring many potential clues that could help unravel the deeper mysteries of Ahu Vinapu. Ahu Vinapu, with its flawlessly interlocked stone blocks as if cut by a razor, silently challenges the mainstream understanding of human history. How could a small, isolated community in the middle of the Pacific have developed a construction technique on par with the mighty Inca Empire, long hailed as the master of stone architecture? Could there be a forgotten chapter of history where transoceanic journeys between the Andes and Polynesia actually took place, or perhaps even in the opposite direction? Another possibility has also been raised that these striking similarities did not result from direct contact, but rather stem from a shared ancient knowledge now lost to time, an idea echoed in many theories about advanced prehistoric civilizations. Whatever the truth may be, Ahu Vinapu remains one of the most remarkable ancient structures in the world, not because of its fame, but because of the deep mysteries it evokes and the profound questions it leaves open for humanity today. If Ahu Vinapu is truly linked to Inca construction, then it is not merely an archaeological site. It's a bridge between two worlds, between the Andes and the Pacific, between what we think we know and what may still be hidden. And perhaps those perfectly interlocked stones are the ancestors' way of telling us there's still so much about human history we have yet to truly understand. Hidden within the frozen lungs of Siberia, far from any modern road or map, lies a place few have dared to reach Gornaya Shoria. At first glance, it seems like just another forgotten patch of forest and stone. But look closer, and you'll find something deeply unsettling: colossal blocks of granite, some the size of buildings, stacked and shaped with impossible precision. They don't belong here, not in nature, and certainly not without tools no ancient culture was ever supposed to have. Are they the shattered bones of a forgotten fortress? A prehistoric monument built by hands we no longer remember, or just an illusion carved by time and ice? Whatever the truth is, Gornaya Shoria isn't just remote, it's forbidden by silence, shrouded in cold and full of questions science still refuses to ask. What do you think these giant stones really are? Natural formations or evidence of something humanity has forgotten? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What makes Gornaya Shoria so astonishing to anyone who learns about it is the unimaginable scale of the granite blocks scattered throughout the area. Some are estimated to measure 20 to 40 meters in length, stand several meters tall, and weigh thousands of tons dimensions that far exceed the known limits of ancient construction techniques. Even the massive stones at Baalbek, Lebanon, long considered a pinnacle of ancient engineering, pale in comparison. The existence of such colossal stones raises a profound question. Who could have created them, and how? It's not just the massive scale that makes Gornaya Shoria so mysterious. The strange shapes and structural features of its granite blocks add another layer of intrigue. Many of the stones have surfaces that are nearly perfectly flat, with some showing sharp right angles that look as if measured with precision tools. Even more striking is how these blocks appear stacked atop one another as though they were once part of a gigantic wall or architectural structure. The smoothness of the stone surfaces is so uncanny that many speculate they were once cut or polished using advanced industrial machinery. While natural fractures typically result in rough, irregular shapes here, we see clear geometric symmetry and deliberate order, a phenomenon rarely found in nature. The most shocking theory surrounding Gornaya Shoria suggests that if those massive stone blocks were truly man-made, then we are looking at remnants of a prehistoric civilization that possessed technology far beyond what we can imagine today. The act of cutting, moving, and assembling blocks weighing thousands of tons is something even modern engineers, equipped with cranes and advanced machinery, would struggle with. But if this was achieved tens of thousands of years ago, it raises the haunting question: who did it when, and with what kind of technology? These remain mysteries with no answers. Although mainstream scientists remain skeptical, current explanations have yet to convince many observers. Most geologists argue that the granite blocks at Gornaya Shoria were formed through millions of years of tectonic fracturing and erosion, resulting in large slabs with seemingly flat surfaces. Some theories add that the extreme temperature fluctuations between Siberia's harsh winters and short summers could have caused major cracks, splitting the rock along relatively straight plains. However, the controversy lies in the fact that many of these blocks feature almost perfectly right angles with smooth cuts and what appears to be a deliberate layered arrangement more like giant bricks than natural stone formations. This intentional-looking geometry and layout has made the natural formation theory increasingly unconvincing to a growing number of independent researchers. One of the main reasons the mystery of Gornaya Shoria remains so difficult to unravel is the complete lack of official archaeological research. To this day, no large-scale excavation or comprehensive scientific investigation has ever been conducted at the site. The Russian authorities and mainstream scientific community continue to classify the area as a natural geological phenomenon showing little interest in deeper exploration. As a result, most of the current photos and information come from independent researchers, explorers, or proponents of alternative theories. While controversial, these individuals have introduced a bold and provocative perspective that Gornaya Shoria may in fact be the remaining ruins of a long-lost prehistoric civilization, possibly even older than Egypt's Sumer or any known South American culture. Some of the most prominent theories about Gornaya Shoria go beyond the site itself, placing it within a global network of mysterious megalithic structures. Independent researchers have drawn connections between Gornaya Shoria and other controversial locations such as Puma Punku in Bolivia and Nanmadol in Micronesia, suggesting that all of them might have once belonged to an incredibly advanced prehistoric civilization that spanned the globe. According to these theories, this civilization was destroyed by massive geological or natural cataclysms such as a great flood, widespread volcanic eruptions, or shifts in Earth's magnetic field. If these ideas are true, then Gornaya Shoria is not just an isolated anomaly, but a surviving fragment of a completely forgotten chapter of human history, a time when humans, or perhaps even another intelligent species, possessed knowledge far beyond what we can comprehend today. One of the biggest barriers keeping Gornaya Shoria shrouded in mystery is its harsh terrain and near-total inaccessibility using conventional means. The site lies deep within the wild mountain forests of Siberia, far removed from any population centers and completely lacking modern infrastructure. Reaching the area requires specialized equipment, long travel times, and survival skills in extreme weather conditions, challenges that most mainstream archaeological teams are unwilling to take on. As a result, Gornaya Shoria remains silent and motionless amid the frozen wilderness like a giant stone gatekeeper quietly guarding secrets that have never been revealed. Although no solid proof has been found to confirm that the granite blocks at Gornaya Shoria are man-made, their sheer size, geometry, and layout defy easy explanation through conventional geology. And that unanswered question continues to drive curiosity among researchers, historians, and explorers. If one day we uncover real archaeological evidence or proof that these gigantic stones were deliberately shaped, moved, and assembled, it would shake the foundations of everything we thought we knew about human history. Until then, Gornaya Shoria remains an enormous mystery, in stone, buried deep in the Siberian cold, whispering stories that may or may not be true, but are far too grand to ignore. Deep within the highlands of Bolivia lies one of the most perplexing archaeological enigmas of South America, Puma Punku. Part of the larger Tiwanaku complex near Lake Titicaca, this site has attracted global attention, not only for its age and cultural significance, but more so for a set of mysterious architectural elements that defy conventional explanation, the H-blocks. These finely cut andesite stones, shaped like the letter H, are not only fascinating in form, but are embedded with a level of technical precision that continues to baffle engineers, archaeologists, and historians alike. Among the countless megalithic wonders of the ancient world, few possess the same aura of mechanical impossibility as these H-shaped blocks. Scattered across the ruins, these stones are carved with geometric perfection, complete with sharp, 90-degree angles, symmetrical grooves, smooth surfaces, and intricate interlocking notches. But what elevates these artifacts from impressive to almost unbelievable is their mechanical precision, a level of craftsmanship that seems to leap across centuries of technological development. Could ancient builders really achieve this kind of mechanical precision with primitive tools, or are we missing a crucial piece of history? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. To appreciate the magnitude of the mystery, one must consider the hardness of the stone itself. The H-blocks are made from andesite, a volcanic rock known for its exceptional toughness, rated around 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. For context, andesite is harder than iron and considerably more difficult to shape or drill using simple hand tools. Yet the surfaces of these blocks are incredibly smooth, as if milled by modern machinery. The corners are razor sharp. The holes and grooves exhibit uniform depth. Some even feature channels that look like they were created using machine-guided tooling. Traditional explanations posit that the Tiwanaku civilization, which flourished from around 500 CE to 1000 CE, shaped these stones using pounding stones and bronze chisels. But this theory quickly begins to fall apart under scrutiny. Bronze is a much softer metal than andesite and would have worn down rapidly under such usage. Moreover, no evidence of bronze chisels with the required strength or shape has ever been found at the site, nor have any abrasive tools or machinery been unearthed that could account for such flawless stone work. Modern engineers who have examined the H-blocks often arrive at the same conclusion: the tolerances, straightness, and symmetry suggest advanced engineering. The level of consistency between different H-blocks is so precise that if aligned, they could interlock seamlessly. The groove dimensions match down to the millimeter. In many cases, the angles are exactly 90 degrees, a feat difficult even with modern hand tools, unless one has access to machining equipment or precision jigs. So how could an ancient civilization, supposedly without access to iron tools or written engineering plans, achieve such accuracy? One of the most astonishing aspects of the H-shaped stones at Puma Punku is their near-perfect uniformity. Dozens of these blocks still exist, and many of them are not only geometrically identical, but also interchangeable, like pieces of Lego. This raises a bold hypothesis. Could the ancient Tiwanaku people have developed a system of standardized production, something almost unimaginable for a civilization believed to lack written language or precise measuring tools? In the modern world, producing identical parts for assembly typically happens in factories with well-defined production lines and templates. Yet at Puma Punku, the H-blocks clearly reflect that very concept: matching dimensions, matching grooves, matching right-angle systems, even to the precision of a millimeter. This level of consistency could only have been achieved if they had used some form of template guiding tool or fixed measurement unit, even though no physical evidence of such tools has ever been found. If the blocks were made entirely by hand without repetition or templates, each one would have required a separate, laborious process of measuring, carving, and correcting, a task so time-consuming that the probability of achieving such uniformity is almost zero. This is especially true given that the primary material is andesite, a volcanic rock extremely hard and difficult to work with. Such precision and symmetry not only reflect exceptional craftsmanship, but also hint at an integrated understanding of geometry, measurement, and even ergonomics, concepts that took many later civilizations thousands of years to formalize. Some researchers have gone even further in analyzing the H-shaped stones by focusing on the microscopic marks found on their surfaces. What surprised them was that in many areas, the stones displayed evenly spaced parallel striations resembling cuts left by a high-speed grinder or rotary tool. If these marks are natural, their consistency is highly unusual. But if they are man-made, they strongly suggest the presence of rotary tools, saws, or stone-cutting equipment tools that far exceed the known technological capabilities of the ancient Tiwanaku civilization. In modern stoneworking, creating precise holes or grooves in hard rock like andesite typically requires tools with diamond-tipped blades, tungsten carbide edges, or other ultra-hard industrial materials. Yet no such tools have ever been found at Puma Punku. This has led many to wonder whether there may have once existed technological methods that were never recorded or were entirely lost. Moreover, many of the drilled holes in the H-blocks are not only perfectly straight, but also exactly perpendicular to the stone's surface, something nearly impossible to achieve by hand, without precision guides or jigs. In one particularly well-known case, the holes were arranged in a perfect square grid, revealing an astonishing level of spatial planning and execution, the kind of precision that even today requires specialized equipment. The deeper one delves into the technical characteristics of the H-shaped stones, the harder it becomes to accept that they were created solely with stone tools in a pre-industrial society. The near-perfect precision, the flawlessly interlocking grooves, and the meticulously polished surfaces appear to be far beyond the capabilities of any civilization lacking advanced metal tools or modern measuring equipment. As a result, some alternative researchers have proposed that Puma Punku may preserve knowledge from a lost civilization, or that it may have been influenced by an unidentified source of advanced technology. While there is no concrete evidence to support this theory, it attempts to fill a glaring gap in our understanding of ancient technological capacity. Meanwhile, mainstream archaeologists maintain a more cautious stance. They acknowledge the exceptional craftsmanship of the stones, but attribute it to extraordinary skill combined with time and effort rather than to lost technology. Even so, some of the most conservative scholars admit that Puma Punku presents unique challenges distinctly different from Inca or Mayan architecture, which often shows chisel marks, irregular joints, and geometric inconsistencies. The geometric perfection of the H-blocks makes them a singular phenomenon in the field of ancient archaeology. Even if one were to accept that the Tiwanaku culture produced these stones with basic tools, how did they coordinate such precision across a large site without modern surveying equipment? How did they move and position blocks weighing several tons with such alignment accuracy? And why does no similar construction exist elsewhere in South America with the same characteristics? Some theories suggest that Puma Punku might have served as a ceremonial site, with the H-blocks being part of a larger ritual structure. Others see them as architectural supports, perhaps even hinges or joints within a mechanical assembly. But the absence of definitive plans or textual records leaves all such hypotheses speculative. What remains undeniable, however, is this: the H-blocks represent one of the clearest examples of technical sophistication in ancient stonework anywhere on Earth. They challenge our assumptions about what was possible in the ancient world and force us to reconsider the linear timeline of human technological development. The impossible creatures that were actually real. When archaeologists excavated a cave called Liang Bua on the island of Flores, Indonesia, in 2003, they had no idea that their discovery would shake the foundations of evolutionary biology. Beneath layers of untouched earth, they found the skull of an adult human only about 1 meter tall, with a brain volume even smaller than that of a chimpanzee. But what truly shocked them was not just the size, it was what came with its sophisticated stone tools, traces of fire, and evidence of organized hunting. They named this tiny human species Homo floresiensis, but the public and media quickly gave them a more familiar nickname: the Hobbits. Since then, Homo floresiensis has become one of the most controversial and mysterious discoveries in modern anthropology. They are not only a physical anomaly, but also a profound question mark about the relationship between body intelligence and human evolution. In particular, the most haunting mystery about Homo floresiensis lies in a question that remains unanswered. Were they a distinct evolutionary branch of the human family tree, or simply modern humans with rare genetic disorders? Do you think the hobbits were a separate human species, or just modern humans with a condition? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The first discovered specimen of Homo floresiensis, known as LB1, stood at only approximately 1.06 meters tall, weighed around 25 kilograms, and had a brain volume of just about 400 cubic centimeters, comparable to that of a chimpanzee, and only 1/3 the size of a modern human brain. With such physical measurements, many initially assumed this individual had severely limited cognitive abilities. However, researchers were seriously challenged in that belief when they uncovered a range of deliberately crafted and intricate stone tools found alongside the skeleton. These tools revealed complex thinking creativity and exceptional survival skills, traits once believed to be exclusive to humans with larger brains. This discovery undermined the long-standing assumption that intelligence is directly proportional to brain size, and raised the possibility that Homo floresiensis may have developed cognition along a completely different evolutionary path from Homo sapiens. Carbon dating results show that Homo floresiensis lived between 60,000 and 50,000 years ago, which means they were contemporaries of Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. This challenges the earlier belief that only one human species existed at any given time. On the contrary, Homo floresiensis serves as evidence that multiple human species once coexisted on Earth, potentially interacting, competing, or even interbreeding with one another. However, what puzzles scientists is that the physical morphology of Homo floresiensis shows almost no clear connection to any other known human lineage, raising deep questions about their origins and their true role in human evolution. Do they ever encounter modern humans, or simply vanish in silence? One of the most intense debates surrounding Homo floresiensis centers on their true origin. Were they a completely new branch of the human evolutionary tree, or merely modern humans affected by a rare genetic disorder? Since the first specimen, LB1, was discovered, some scientists quickly dismissed the idea of a distinct human species, arguing instead that LB1 was simply a Homo sapiens individual suffering from microcephaly, a condition characterized by an abnormally small brain, or Laron syndrome, a hormonal disorder causing dwarfism and skeletal deformities. Their arguments focused on three key points. First, that LB1's brain volume was far too small, falling outside the normal range for modern humans. Second, that the skull appeared asymmetrical and misshapen, possibly the result of congenital deformity. And third, that the skeletal proportions and stature resembled documented developmental disorders in modern medical records. However, a group of researchers who support the hypothesis that Homo floresiensis was a separate species firmly countered these claims, using both morphological and archaeological evidence. First, after LB1, several other bone fragments were found with similar features, suggesting this was not a one-off diseased individual, but a consistent population with shared biological traits. Second, the structure of their skulls, jawbones, and teeth differed significantly from Homo sapiens, but bore resemblance to more ancient species like Homo habilis or Australopithecus, indicating that they may have descended from a separate evolutionary lineage unrelated to modern humans. Third, the stone tools found alongside Homo floresiensis clearly demonstrated their ability to make and use tools, reflecting an independently developed form of cognitive evolution, which contradicts the idea that they were simply mentally impaired individuals. One major obstacle in determining their true origin is the humid tropical climate of Flores, which has caused significant degradation of DNA in fossil remains, meaning that no complete genetic sequences have yet been successfully extracted from Homo floresiensis. This lack of genetic data has only deepened the complexity and mystery surrounding their identity. Currently, the most widely supported theory among scientists is that Homo floresiensis descended from an older human ancestor such as Homo erectus or Homo habilis, and later underwent evolutionary dwarfism due to long-term island isolation, a biological phenomenon known as island dwarfism. In closed ecosystems with limited resources, many animal species, including humans, tend to shrink in size to adapt to their environment, and Homo floresiensis may be a perfect example of this phenomenon in the evolutionary history of our species. If Homo floresiensis was truly a distinct human species, then their existence poses a serious challenge to the traditional linear model of evolution, one in which Homo sapiens is seen as the final and sole endpoint. Instead, they suggest that human evolution may have branched off in multiple directions, far more complex and diverse than previously imagined. Homo floresiensis may have diverged from other human species over 1 million years ago, then evolved in complete isolation, developing survival skills and cognitive abilities along an entirely different path, independent of body size or brain volume. This stands as compelling evidence that intelligence can evolve in many different forms, breaking away from conventional expectations. One of the most intriguing aspects of Homo floresiensis is the hypothesis that they may not be extinct. In the folklore of indigenous people on the island of Flores, there are many stories about small human-like creatures living in the forest known as Ebu Gogo, which means the one who eats everything. Strangely, the descriptions of these beings match the characteristics of Homo floresiensis: short stature, bipedal movement, the ability to use fire, and a mumbling but clever way of speaking. Some anthropologists do not rule out the possibility that Homo floresiensis may have survived until a few centuries ago, or perhaps still exist today, hidden deep within remote forests. Although there is no definitive archaeological evidence, these oral traditions continue to fuel imagination and raise the compelling question: have modern humans ever truly been alone on this planet? Homo floresiensis is not just another fossil among ancient human species. They are a challenge, an open question, a Trojan horse in the established theory of human evolution. If they were simply diseased modern humans, then it is a stunning testament to human adaptability under extreme conditions. If they were a separate species, then the entire human family tree needs rewriting. And if they're still out there, beneath the crushing weight of the ocean, where sunlight dies and silence reigns, something ancient may still be watching us. For thousands of years, tales have whispered of the mermaids' beings as alluring as they are horrifying, part human, part sea, yet belonging to neither world. Strangely, their presence echoes across time and continents. Cultures that never met, separated by oceans and centuries, all describe them almost the same. Why? What if these weren't just legends, but distorted memories of something real, something the sea has hidden too well for us to find again? What do you think? Could mermaids be more than myth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We're listening. One of the strangest things about mermaids isn't their appearance or behavior, but their uncanny universality across nearly every culture that has ever lived near the sea. From the sun-scorched Mediterranean to the icy waters of northern Europe, from Japanese legends to the myths of the South Pacific, the image of a half-human, half-fish creature seems to appear everywhere. Even more astonishing to researchers, many of these legends emerged long before those civilizations had any contact with each other, or even knew the others existed. In Greek mythology, the sirens were part human beings, with either fishtails or bird wings, using their voices to lure sailors to their deaths. In West Africa, Mamiwata is a water goddess with shimmering skin and flowing hair capable of mesmerizing anyone with just a glance. In Japan, people speak of Ningyo, a fish-like creature whose flesh grants immortality but with a terrible curse. In Scotland, the Selkies are shapeshifters from seals, while in South America, Iara is a betrayed warrior woman transformed into a mermaid. So the question remains, are these just coincidences of human imagination, or fragments of a memory, a species long forgotten, swallowed by the sea and surviving only in legend? Among the strangest theories about the origin of mermaids, there is one idea that sends chills down the spine, while sparking deep curiosity. Could they be a forgotten branch of human evolution? The aquatic ape hypothesis, though controversial, proposes that humans once went through a semi-aquatic phase during our evolutionary history. Certain peculiar traits seem to support this: our mostly hairless bodies, a thick layer of subcutaneous fat similar to that of marine animals, an exceptional ability to hold our breath underwater, and even childbirth practices in water among some ancient tribes. So what if, due to geographical isolation or extreme environmental conditions, a group of early humans became completely cut off, trapped beneath the deep ocean? Tens of thousands of years surviving in cold, dark waters could have forced them to evolve along a completely different path. Thicker skin lungs adapted to water pressure, limbs reshaped for swimming. And at that point, would they still be considered human, or something entirely different? A species beyond the grasp of modern human understanding. If mermaids were nothing more than a product of imagination, then why are there so many independent accounts from witnesses across different eras and oceans, all describing creatures that sound eerily similar? In the year 1493, during his voyage through the Caribbean Sea, Christopher Columbus recorded seeing 3 beings resembling mermaids. Although he admitted they were not as beautiful as depicted in paintings, he clearly described upper bodies like humans and lower bodies like fishtails. Nearly 2 centuries later, English explorer Henry Hudson also reported a strange sight in the icy waters of the Arctic: a creature with pale white skin, long green hair, and a fishtail swimming alongside the ship. Even more chilling, during World War II, a group of Japanese soldiers stationed in Indonesia claimed they were attacked by mermaid-like beings. Their description: webbed hands, snake-like mouths, unusually large eyes, and pale gray skin, details too specific and consistent to be fabricated across time and geography. While no verified specimen has ever been made public, the fact that so many individuals from different places and periods witnessed nearly identical creatures makes it difficult to dismiss entirely. Could it be that behind the legend lies a truth the sea still keeps hidden? In the 19th century, many traveling circuses and bizarre exhibitions showcase so-called mermaid corpses, sparking widespread public fascination and fear. The most famous among them was the Fiji mermaid, promoted by P.T. Barnum, which was later revealed to be the stitched-together remains of a monkey and a fishtail. However, not all cases were so easily dismissed as hoaxes. Some reported mermaid-like bodies were said to have been confiscated by authorities just days after discovery, with no public samples or photographs ever released. A few leaked documents from Russia, China, and private organizations even hinted at the existence of strange fossils bearing both human and aquatic features, which then mysteriously vanished without a trace. This raises the unsettling question: could real evidence have once been found only to be hidden away forever, for reasons we may never know? In the year 2012, Animal Planet aired a faux documentary called Mermaids: The Body Found. Using high-end CGI fake interviews and realistic reconstructions, yet never labeling it as fiction. At first, the broadcast shook audiences. Millions believed mermaids were real, and the government was hiding the truth. NOAA, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, had to issue a public statement: there is no evidence that mermaids exist. But the rushed denial only raised more suspicion. If it was just fiction, why the urgent need to shut it down? The deep ocean remains Earth's final great mystery. While humanity has set foot on the moon and sent spacecraft beyond the solar system, we've explored less than 5% of the ocean floor. Every year, scientists continue to discover marine creatures, never before recorded beings with shapes and biological structures that defy imagination. In the year 2021, an autonomous Japanese submersible captured footage of a creature nearly 10 feet long, with fin-like arms, an oval-shaped head, and unusually large eyes entirely unlike any known species. It appeared for only a few seconds before vanishing into a pitch-black abyss. Many experts warn that countless deep-sea genetic codes remain unsequenced, and among them there may exist gene clusters with surprising similarities to humans, concealed by crushing depths, immense pressure, and eternal darkness. The boldest and most chilling theory about mermaids suggests that they are not creatures that evolved on Earth, but an extraterrestrial species hiding beneath our oceans. Supporters of this idea point to a series of strange phenomena: unidentified flying objects emerging from the sea at supersonic speed, USOs, mysterious underwater sounds like the bloop echoing across the Pacific stronger than any known marine creature, and the eerie resemblance between mermaid lore and descriptions of amphibious alien beings. If this theory is true, then mermaids are not just legends. They are observers, evaders, or perhaps even experimenters operating on the human race. Mermaids, real or not, represent a powerful symbol: beauty intertwined with death, curiosity laced with danger, a thin line between discovery and doom. Perhaps the mermaid is not a fairy tale. Perhaps it is a warning that the sea has never been our friend, and that some things hidden in the abyss should never be awakened. When people mention the word unicorn, the image that usually comes to mind is a mythical creature, graceful, slender, and ethereal, with a glowing horn on its forehead. But in the frozen deserts of Siberia, tens of thousands of years ago, there once roamed a real creature so majestic and mysterious that it continues to stun the modern world: Elasmotherium sibiricum, also known by its legendary name, the Siberian unicorn. It wasn't a figment of imagination. It wasn't the result of ancient folklore. Elasmotherium was a colossal rhinoceros species bearing an enormous horn that is believed to have reached over 1 meter in length. What made it truly extraordinary was not just its appearance, but the fact that it survived well into the period when modern humans began to appear and embarked on their first conquests across the frigid steppe. What do you think could ancient humans have actually seen the Siberian unicorn with their own eyes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Elasmotherium was such a strange creature that it's hard to believe it truly existed and wasn't just a myth. Unlike any rhinoceros species alive today, Elasmotherium was taller, longer, and more muscular, built perfectly to survive the harsh conditions of the cold Asian steppes. Its most striking feature was the enormous horn on its forehead, never fossilized due to its keratin composition, yet the deep, wide cavity on its skull is undeniable proof that it once existed. Experts estimate the horn could have reached up to 1.5 meters in length, resembling a massive spear jutting out from its face. But the true purpose of this horn remains unclear. Was it for combat, for digging through snow to find grass, or for attracting mates? Even more astonishing is the time period during which Elasmotherium lived. For many years, scientists believed it had gone extinct around 200,000 years ago. But in the year 2016, a discovery in Kazakhstan rewrote the story. A fossil was dated to only around 29,000 years ago, the same era when early Homo sapiens walked the Earth. This suggests that modern humans may have actually witnessed the Siberian unicorn firsthand, and perhaps they were the ones who unknowingly sowed the seeds for the unicorn legends that would echo through folklore for centuries to come. All legends come to an end, and Elasmotherium was no exception to the cruel fate that befell many Ice Age giants. Yet unlike the woolly mammoth, saber-toothed tiger, or cave bear, the disappearance of Elasmotherium presents a troubling mystery. How could a creature so well adapted to its environment go extinct when it seemed to be thriving? Many theories have been proposed, but none are fully convincing. One of the most widely accepted theories to explain the extinction of Elasmotherium is climate change. According to this view, a sudden shift in temperature and humidity may have caused the cold grasslands, the species' primary habitat, to disappear, replaced by forests or marshlands. Elasmotherium had teeth specially adapted for grazing on tough, deep-rooted grasses typical of cold, dry steppes. As such, it likely could not digest the new types of vegetation that began to grow after the shift. Its inability to adapt quickly to a changing food source would have been a critical threat, leading to hungers, reduced reproduction, and a rapid population collapse. However, there is one notable inconsistency. Many other species that shared the same ecosystem, such as woolly mammoths, continued to survive for thousands of years afterward. This raises a major question. If climate change was truly the main cause, then why did Elasmotherium vanish earlier than the others? Some scientists believe that Elasmotherium was not simply a victim of climate change, but rather a casualty of over-specialization in evolution. This species had dental and digestive systems optimized specifically for consuming a particular type of grass found in cold, dry steppe environments. That meant even slight changes in the vegetation, such as the decline of its primary grass or the emergence of harder-to-digest plants, could disrupt its survival chain. Unlike generalist species that can adapt their diet, Elasmotherium was far too dependent on a single food source. Adding to the challenge was its massive size, with an estimated weight of up to 4 tons, which meant its daily energy requirements were extremely high. Without a stable supply of the right type of nutritious food, the population of Elasmotherium could have declined rapidly in just a few generations. This represents a heartbreaking example of what scientists call an adaptation trap, when evolution perfects a species for a highly specific environment, only to leave it helpless when that environment inevitably changes. Another theory questions the role of early humans in the extinction of Elasmotherium. At the time this creature was nearing its end, modern Homo sapiens had already appeared and begun expanding their territory into Central Asia, the very region where many Elasmotherium fossils have been discovered. Given its massive size, thick hide, abundant meat, and symbolically impressive horn, Elasmotherium would have been a highly attractive target for hunting groups, not just for survival purposes, but potentially also for ritual, symbolic, or mythological reasons. However, there is still no clear archaeological evidence that humans ever hunted or processed this animal. The discovered bone specimens bear no cut marks from stone tools, nor do they show signs of butchering. No hunting tools or fire pits have been found alongside the fossil sites. Therefore, if humans did play a role in pushing Elasmotherium toward extinction, the traces they left behind are far too faint to confirm anything with certainty. A lesser discussed but equally haunting theory suggests that a disease outbreak or species-specific parasite may have quietly spread through the Elasmotherium population. As their habitat shrank and changed, the density of individuals likely decreased, weakening the species' immune resilience and creating the perfect conditions for pathogens to thrive. A fast-spreading disease, similar to how viruses can sweep through modern livestock, could have been enough to wipe out a species that already had low population numbers and a slow reproductive rate. However, no genetic or fossil evidence currently exists to support this hypothesis, leaving it as an unverified possibility among the many mysteries surrounding the extinction of the Siberian unicorn. The disappearance of Elasmotherium remains one of the greatest Ice Age enigmas. No dramatic end, no definitive proof, no recorded history. It came and went like a shadow, leaving behind a question that still keeps scientists awake at night. Why couldn't a creature so perfectly built survive just a few thousand years more? If Elasmotherium had lasted into modern times, it would be a living monument to a lost world, a living testimony of ancient evolution and survival. Today, all we have left are fossilized bones, an enormous skull, and a collection of incomplete hypotheses. But perhaps the greatest legacy of the Siberian unicorn is a warning that even the strongest, most majestic, and most unique creatures can vanish, all because of a few tiny shifts in a world they couldn't control. And maybe, just maybe, those European fairy tales of white unicorns, those ancient carvings of horned beasts battling snowstorms are faint echoes of a time when Elasmotherium still roamed the same earth as the first humans. Throughout human history, we've always been fascinated by extraordinary beings that may have once walked the earth. Among the most controversial and mysterious enigmas ever discussed, few have sparked as much debate as the Nephilim skeletons said to be the remains of a race of legendary giants referenced in ancient texts such as the Bible, the Book of Enoch, and Mesopotamian folklore. Reports, images, and oral accounts from around the globe seem to echo the same chilling idea that a towering species, ranging from 3 to 7 meters tall, once existed on Earth, and somehow history has chosen to erase them. Yet standing between mainstream archaeology and ancient hypothesis, the most important question is not who were they, but rather, did these giant human skeletons ever truly exist? What do you think? Could these giant skeletons have been real, or are they just ancient myths and modern hoaxes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take on this mystery. Since the early 20th century, and especially during the rise of the internet, A wave of shocking images has circulated widely across social media, sparking intense debates about the existence of giants. These photos depict enormous human skeletons lying in excavation pits, with skulls 2 or even 3 times larger than a normal human's femurs, as thick as a person's torso, and front teeth up to 10 centimeters long. In many of these images, the excavators standing nearby appear tiny, further emphasizing the impression of an extraordinary discovery. Several of the images are labeled as having been taken in places like the Nevada desert, the mountains of Ecuador, the jungles of Peru, or even caves in Greece and Turkey. Some skeletons are said to measure up to 6 meters in length. However, the critical issue and the biggest point of doubt lies in the fact that almost none of these skeletons still exist today for modern science to verify, leaving the public caught in a state of uncertainty, hovering between the thrill of a historic breakthrough and the suspicion of a massive hoax. Across the world, numerous locations have been mentioned with an air of mystery in unofficial reports or local folklore concerning the discovery of giants. One of the most prominent names is Lovelock Cave in Nevada, USA, where a giant skeleton nearly 3 meters tall was allegedly found, complete with red hair and oversized artifacts, including sandals measuring up to 40 centimeters. Another well-known site is Catalina Island in California, where archaeologist Ralph Glidden claimed to have excavated dozens of giant skeletons during the 1920s, yet all related physical evidence has since disappeared. In Ecuador and Peru, some Spanish missionaries from the 16th century wrote accounts describing how they witnessed local tribes burying giants with body proportions far exceeding normal human standards. Meanwhile, in the Ephrata Valley of Pennsylvania, local residents claimed that while digging foundations for houses, they accidentally unearthed unusually long bone fragments believed to belong to a person nearly 3 meters tall. Although each location carries its own distinct narrative, they all share one strange commonality. Not a single specimen has survived for DNA analysis, carbon dating, or verification through modern scientific methods. This widespread disappearance of evidence has led many to suspect that something is being deliberately hidden. In many reports retold over the years, one often comes across short news snippets from local newspapers of the 19th and 20th centuries describing the discovery of giant human skeletons in cornfields on hillsides or inside remote caves. Accompanying these reports are photographs of unclear origin, usually with vague captions and no specific geographic coordinates or timestamps. Some stories even mention tools of the giants, such as stone axes weighing dozens of kilograms or stone sandals 5 times larger than normal size. However, most of this evidence lacks official documentation and has been dismissed by experts as products of imagination or photographic trickery, leaving the truth behind these claims shrouded in a mist of doubt. Many experts have analyzed the most famous photos of the so-called Nephilim skeletons and found that most of them were digitally altered or created using software like Photoshop. Clear signs include mismatched proportions between the bones and real people, inconsistent lighting, or repeated image elements, all of which suggest these are not genuine documentary photos. Additionally, many researchers believe that the majority of giant-related stories stem from unreliable sources or conspiracy theories that have circulated for decades. However, what continues to puzzle scholars is this: why does the image of giants appear so consistently across so many cultures, from the Americas and Africa to Europe and Asia? One of the most controversial and haunting accusations surrounding the giant skeleton story involves the alleged hidden role of the Smithsonian Institution, one of the most prestigious research and artifact preservation organizations in the United States. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, numerous unofficial accounts, oral testimonies, and conspiracy theories have claimed that the Smithsonian secretly collected and destroyed hundreds of giant human skeletons unearthed across America. This accusation reached its peak in the year 2014 when an article from the website World News Daily Report went viral, alleging that the Smithsonian had admitted to destroying the remains in order to protect the official historical narrative of humanity. Although the article was later confirmed to be fake news, the public's suspicion did not vanish. Many independent researchers claim to have heard first-hand accounts from witnesses who reportedly saw the giant skeletons, yet every trace seemed to mysteriously disappear once museum institutions or local authorities got involved. Mainstream scientists have many arguments to completely reject the possibility of the existence of giants. First of all, to this day, no fossilized giant skeleton has ever been verified, published, or displayed in any reputable scientific journal anywhere in the world. The specimens that have been widely circulated failed to meet the standards required for scientific validation. Secondly, no DNA samples, unusual biological traces, have been extracted from the skeletons claimed to belong to giants. This makes it impossible to perform modern analyses such as gene sequencing or radiocarbon dating. Additionally, in some cases where large bones have been found, scientists often attribute them to rare medical conditions like acromegaly or gigantism. However, even these disorders cannot explain human heights reaching 6 or 7 meters, as described in many of the reports. The answer may lie in spiritual longing, human imagination, and the deep desire to explore an alternate version of our history. In a world increasingly defined by algorithms and scientific norms, the idea of an ancient race, towering, powerful, and possibly once rulers of the earth, offers both skepticism and a strange kind of romance. The Nephilim tale isn't just about bones or archaeology. It taps into faith, the collapse of forgotten civilizations, and secrets that may have been buried to protect power or control knowledge. The final answer remains elusive, but as videos, photos, and stories continue to circulate, and as no one has presented irrefutable physical proof or absolute disproof, the mystery of the Nephilim skeletons persists as one of the most compelling enigmas ever known to mankind. And perhaps the more important question isn't did they exist, but rather, if they did, who erased all trace of them from history? In the shadowy heart of North America's endless wilderness, beyond the reach of concrete roads and flashing satellites, a colossal secret may still be walking among the trees. Towering, fur-covered, and eerily silent, Bigfoot has haunted campfires, terrified explorers, and defied scientists for generations. It's not just folklore, not just blurry videos or footprints in the mud. Bigfoot stands at the crossroads of ancient legend, cultural obsession, and scientific disbelief. But of all the baffling questions surrounding this elusive giant, one mystery refuses to die. If Bigfoot is real, where is the body? No bones, no hair, no corpses, nothing that science can hold up and say, this is proof. And yet, the legend won't go away. Do you think Bigfoot is a real creature or just a brilliant myth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear what you believe. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch in Native American legends, is a mysterious creature described as human-like in shape but enormous in size. According to widespread reports and stories, Bigfoot is said to be between 2 and 3 meters tall, weighs several hundred kilograms, and is covered head to toe in thick, dark brown or black fur. One of its most striking features is its giant feet, which gave rise to the name Bigfoot. The creature is believed to dwell deep within the dense forests of the Pacific Northwest, including states like Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia. In Canada, remote wild places rarely touched by humans. What's astonishing is that thousands of people have claimed to see Bigfoot, from hunters and campers to truck drivers and even amateur biologists. Some reports describe hearing terrifying howls echoing through the night forest, while others mention a foul, pungent odor lingering in areas the creature supposedly passed, a smell unlike any known animal. One of the most frequently cited pieces of evidence by Bigfoot believers is the appearance of enormous footprints left in mud or snow, along with a series of blurry photos and videos. Among them, the most famous is the Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967, captured in Bluff Creek, California, which shows a large upright creature suddenly turning its head to glance at the camera. Although it caused a sensation when first released, most modern analysts now believe the footage is unconvincing, likely staged with a person in a costume. Even the footprints once considered strong physical proof have been exposed in many cases as wooden molds deliberately crafted to mislead. One of the greatest paradoxes in the Bigfoot legend lies in this simple question: if such a creature truly exists, massive in size, intelligent, and roaming the forests of North America for centuries, then why hasn't humanity found even a single skeleton tooth patch of hair scat sample or any trace of biological tissue? For a large mammal, the likelihood of leaving behind physical remains after death is almost certain based on the most basic biological principles. And yet the reality is quite the opposite. Not a single biological specimen has ever been definitively verified as belonging to Bigfoot. Over the years, many individuals have submitted hair samples, bone fragments, or bits of soft tissue believed to be from the creature to laboratories for DNA testing. But the results have consistently shown that these samples belong to black bears, wolves, humans, or other known native animals. None have ever come from an unidentified species. Modern biologists argue that no mammal species could survive and sustain a population in the wild without leaving behind clear biological traces. Large animals like bears, deer, or mountain lions all leave behind corpses, skeletons, feces, shed fur, and signs of reproduction, and they can be easily monitored using trap cameras, infrared sensors, thermal imaging devices, or drones. So why does Bigfoot, if it truly exists, seem to be completely immune to all modern surveillance technologies? No corpse, no nests, no breeding signs, no observable interaction with the ecosystem. This absolute lack of biological evidence is what leads most scientists to lean toward the conclusion that Bigfoot is not a real creature, but rather a product of popular culture and mass psychology that has been amplified over time. Despite the lack of concrete physical evidence, many believers in Bigfoot's existence refuse to abandon their convictions. They offer explanations that may sound unusual, but which they argue are reasonable within the context of mysteries science has yet to fully unravel. One of the most common theories is that Bigfoot is highly intelligent and exceptionally elusive, perhaps even possessing ritualistic burial practices similar to humans, which would explain why no bodies have ever been found. Others suggest that the Bigfoot population is extremely small, making sightings and the discovery of remains exceedingly rare. Some propose that the humid forested environments where Bigfoot is said to live cause corpses to decompose rapidly, with bones decaying or being destroyed by scavengers before humans ever find them. And then there are the bolder theories that Bigfoot is not a physical creature at all, but rather a spiritual or interdimensional being, one that leaves behind no biological trace. While mainstream science often dismisses these ideas as lacking empirical support, they continue to resonate deeply with a fundamental human longing, the desire to believe in things beyond our current understanding. Despite the absence of hard evidence, Bigfoot thrives in media, film, literature, games, and even local commerce. Several towns in the United States embrace the legend, hosting festivals, selling souvenirs, and attracting tourists based on their reputation as Bigfoot territory. Bigfoot has become a symbol of wild nature, unexplained phenomena, and the eternal human drive to seek out mysteries. He represents the possibility that there's still something out there science hasn't conquered and maybe never will. The truth is, no one can say with 100% certainty that Bigfoot does not exist. But the fact that no corpse or clear biological sample has ever been found, despite more than half a century of organized searches, leads the scientific community to largely dismiss the creature as a cultural and psychological phenomenon rather than a biological one. And therein lies the paradox. Bigfoot, lacking physical evidence, yet thriving in collective imagination, becomes the perfect myth, real enough to inspire awe, vague enough to never be fully disproven. Is the vampire real? It's a question that has haunted humanity for centuries, not because we need a definitive answer, but because we can't stop asking it. When we talk about vampires, we aren't just talking about pale creatures with fangs and capes. We're talking about something far deeper, something that reflects fear, obsession, seduction, and survival. But what exactly is the vampire? Is it a creature of the night that once preyed upon villages and vanished into legend, or is it something symbolic, a mirror of our darkest human emotions? In the shadows of this myth lies a chilling truth. The vampire may not be real in flesh and bone, but it is real in function. It exists because we believe it does, and perhaps that's the most dangerous kind of reality. What do you think are vampires? Real creatures, or just symbols reflecting human fears? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In the quest to uncover the truth behind the vampire legend, one prominent theory proposed by many modern scientists is this: could the entire myth simply be the result of misinterpreted medical phenomena from the past? In rural areas of Eastern Europe, during the 18th century, there were countless reports describing mysterious vampire attacks. Victims were often said to grow weak over time, turn pale, lose blood without explanation, and eventually die in their own homes. What's particularly noteworthy is that those suspected of being vampires were not left alone after death. Their bodies were frequently exhumed, thoroughly examined, and in many cases had wooden stakes driven through their hearts or were burned all as a way to prevent them from rising again. These were not just scattered folk tales, but actual documented events recorded in official records and even witnessed by priest judges and high-ranking officials. So what was really happening? Modern science suggests that certain terrifying diseases may have unintentionally laid the groundwork for this legend. For instance, tuberculosis causes a slow death. Pale skin, sunken cheeks, and blood-filled coughing, all symptoms that match the descriptions of vampire victims. Porphyria, a rare blood-related disorder, makes the skin extremely sensitive to sunlight, causes gums to recede, making the teeth appear longer, and results in facial disfigurement. Meanwhile, rabies can cause extreme behavioral changes, aggression, insomnia, and even biting, and notably, it spreads through saliva. In an era when medical knowledge was limited, these symptoms were too strange and disturbing to understand, prompting people to seek explanations steeped in the supernatural. And so the image of the vampire was born, not from dark castles, but from sickbeds and cold graveyards. Yet even though these diseases may explain part of the myth, they still cannot account for everything. One of the strangest aspects of vampire lore is the number of reports of bodies that appeared too fresh when exhumed. In an age without refrigeration or embalming, bodies were expected to decay quickly. But sometimes, especially during cold seasons or in certain soil conditions, decomposition was unusually slow. When villagers dug up a suspected vampire and found a bloated body with blood at its lips and nails still growing, a post-mortem illusion, panic erupted. These were taken as signs that the corpse had risen at night to feed. Some bodies were burned, others were decapitated. Many had stakes driven through their chests. Were these just coincidences, or was there something that truly frightened people? Something they believed was real, regardless of the facts? What if the vampire legend wasn't just about medicine, but about society's need to control the unknown? In many stories, vampires are blamed for mysterious deaths, especially among the young, the weak, or the poor. By identifying a vampire, often a recently deceased outcast or stranger, the community had someone to blame. It was a way to explain the unexplainable. Why did this child die so suddenly? Why did the sickness spread through this family? Why did crops fail, or milk turn sour, or livestock waste away? Answer the vampire. In this way, vampires served a psychological function. They turned fear into action. They gave people a sense of control in times of chaos. But they also reflect something deeper, a dark need to scapegoat, to purge, to other. Many victims of vampire suspicion were marginalized: the elderly, the ill, the mentally unstable, the foreign. Vampires, in this sense, were not just myths, but weapons of social fear. Now we enter the symbolic. Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology, once said that myths are dreams of the collective mind. In that light, the vampire is more than a story. It's a reflection of the unconscious desires and fears we all share. What does the vampire represent? Desire that consumes. The vampire is seductive. It doesn't kill through brute force. It draws you in, gains your trust, then drains you slowly. This mirrors unhealthy relationships, addictions, and manipulative power, fear of death and of not dying. The vampire is undead, neither alive nor gone. A being trapped between states, unable to rest. It represents our fear of mortality and, paradoxically, our fear of immortality. Violation of natural order. Vampires feed on the living, reversing the cycle of life. They corrupt the sacred blood family love and turn it into something monstrous. In this sense, the vampire is not a monster in the woods. It's the monster within. Modern psychologists have also explored the vampire as a symbol of emotional and psychological vampirism. Ever been around someone who drains your energy? Someone who constantly manipulates or demands attention, leaving you feeling hollow? These people are sometimes called emotional vampires. And while they may not drink blood, the metaphor holds. They feed off your vitality, your spirit, your time. In some spiritual traditions, the concept of energy vampires goes even further, suggesting that certain people, or even entities, can feed on your life force. Whether literal or metaphorical, the pattern remains: the vampire takes without giving. It survives through extraction, not connection. So, is the vampire real? Not in the way you might think. There are no confirmed cryptid species of blood-sucking humanoids, no scientific proof of undead creatures lurking in crypts. But the vampire is very real in other ways. It's real in our collective psyche. It's real in our fears and fantasies. It's real in how we treat each other, sometimes with compassion, sometimes by draining. It's real in the way we romanticize the dark, the forbidden, the eternal. The vampire may never have walked among us as flesh and bone, but it walks within us. And maybe, just maybe, that's even more terrifying. Throughout the long history of maritime tales, no creature has haunted human imagination quite like the Kraken. From ancient Norse legends to modern scientific findings, the Kraken, now identified as the giant squid, Archaeological ducks, has always existed at the edge between myth and reality. Unlike creatures that live only on paper, the Kraken is real, but what we know about it remains riddled with gaps, especially in a seemingly simple area: its life cycle. The Kraken does not dwell near the ocean's surface where sunlight reaches. It belongs to the cold, pitch-dark depths where humans can barely penetrate. This isolation has meant that for centuries it was only known through vague stories and corpses washed ashore, fragmented pieces that never formed a complete picture of the life of one of the largest animals ever to swim the seas. What do you think about the Kraken's life cycle? Could there be something unimaginable happening in the depths below? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In the past, the Kraken existed only in the chilling tales of the Vikings, a colossal sea monster said to drag warships into the ocean's depths with just a few lashes of its tentacles. It wasn't merely a fictional beast, but a living embodiment of humanity's most primal fear: the vast, unpredictable sea. Yet over time, the line between legend and reality began to blur. Giant squid carcasses started washing ashore, stretching up to 13 meters long, with eyes as large as dinner plates and elongated tentacles lined with toothy suckers, just as the ancient stories described. These discoveries gradually revealed a shocking truth. The Kraken was no fantasy, it was real, and its scientific name is Archaeothus. The body of the Kraken, or the giant squid Archaeothus, is a clear testament to nature's ability to create designs far beyond human imagination. Reaching lengths of up to 13 meters and possessing eyes that can span up to 30 centimeters in diameter, the largest in the animal kingdom, it seems more like a creature from a science fiction film than a real animal. What makes the Kraken even more mysterious is how its body is specially engineered to survive the crushing depths of the ocean, where pressure is immense, light is entirely absent, and temperatures are freezing cold. This extreme environment makes it nearly impossible for humans to access. Every time a Kraken is brought to the surface, the sudden shift in pressure often causes its body to rapidly deteriorate, making direct research incredibly difficult. Unlike smaller squid species typically found in shallow coastal waters, the giant Kraken lives at depths ranging from 300 to 1,000 meters beneath the surface, an environment with total darkness and pressures strong enough to crush most ordinary creatures. In this cold, shadowy realm, the Kraken is not the top predator, but rather becomes the largest prey of the sperm whale, one of the ocean's most intelligent and powerful hunters. Studies of sperm whale stomachs frequently reveal remains of giant squid, such as beaks, tentacles, and patches of skin, proving that the Kraken is a real part of the deep-sea food chain. However, the bodies of sperm whales also often bear massive scars, evidence of violent battles, suggesting that when these two giants meet in the dark, victory never comes easily. One of the most shocking things about the Kraken, the giant squid Archaeothus, is not its enormous size, but its astonishingly short lifespan, only about 3 to 5 years. For a creature that can grow up to 13 meters long, this defies the natural patterns seen in other large animals, like whales or sharks, which typically live for decades. This raises a perplexing question. How can a creature grow to such colossal proportions in just a few short years? Scientists believe the Kraken has an extremely rapid growth rate, possibly undergoing explosive growth during certain life stages. But this remains only a theory because no one has ever successfully kept a Kraken alive, and we've never had the chance to observe its full life cycle from larva to adulthood. What we currently know comes solely from analyzing soft tissues left on dead specimens or rare fossilized traces found in beaks and internal cartilaginous structures. We don't know how the Kraken mates, where it lays its eggs, or what its juvenile stage looks like. Were they born in the same abyss where adults live? Or do they begin life as tiny larvae drifting near the surface, only to descend into the deep as they grow? These questions remain unanswered. This bizarre growth rate has led some researchers to ask even deeper questions. Could the Kraken possess a biological mechanism unknown to science? Something that breaks the mold of everything modern biology has come to understand. One of the key reasons why the Kraken remains one of the ocean's most mysterious creatures is because humans are completely unable to keep it alive in captivity. No specimen of the giant squid has ever survived more than a few hours after being removed from its natural habitat. All attempts to transport or preserve it have ended in failure. The primary cause is the extreme and sudden changes in pressure, light, and water chemistry when it's brought to the surface. The Kraken's body is designed to function in deep, dark, freezing, high-pressure environments. Once removed from that setting, its internal organs and soft tissues quickly collapse, leading to near-instant death. As a result, scientists cannot observe its live behavior, cannot track its growth stages, and cannot replicate its life cycle in laboratory conditions. All current research relies solely on dead specimens, a fragmented and incomplete picture at best. The Kraken's life cycle seems to be programmed to completely evade human observation. No one knows exactly where it is born, how it dies, or how many of them are currently alive in the depths of the ocean. We don't even know if hundreds are born each year, or if just a few solitary individuals survive through the darkness. Unlike other large marine animals like whales or sharks, which surface to breathe or migrate in visible groups, the Kraken spends its entire life in darkness, moving silently through depths untouched by light. It leaves behind no clear trace except for torn tentacle fragments occasionally found in the stomachs of sperm whales. Humanity has walked on the moon, yet when it comes to the Kraken, we remain completely in the dark. Its life cycle is still one of the greatest biological mysteries that the modern ocean has yet to unravel. We know the Kraken is real, yet we do not know how it lives. We have seen its carcass, but have never truly met it. We know it is huge, but we don't know how it grows so quickly. We call it Archaeological ducks, but in the minds of people, it is still the Kraken, a creature of monstrous scale, deep mystery, and elusiveness. And perhaps that is why the Kraken still endures, not because it is stronger or smarter, but because it was born to remain hidden.